Part 48. Canon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 472. Although Li Beihe had no desire to retaliate against Lu Cheng, she had already seen through what Lu Cheng had done. Now when she saw this hypocritical man again, she felt nothing but resentment and nausea. Such a person, the despicable villain, actually tricked the original owner in the plot as badly as he did. Lily's words at this time made the smile on Lu Cheng's face suddenly stagnant. Everyone in front of the damaged hall had different expressions. Even those who were standing by were stunned to death by the appearance of the three great masters just now. Grand Master Lu Shun couldn't help but look up and glance this way. When his eyes fell on Lu Cheng, his brows slowly wrinkled. "Sister, the prince is not what my sister imagined." The prince refused to reveal his identity at first, just because he was afraid of hurting his sister. When Lu Cheng was embarrassed by Lily's questioning, Meng Qiqi, a gentle and understanding woman, naturally stepped forward to take his place. The one who said nice things clearly had a plan in mind. He was afraid that if he revealed his identity and the fact that he already had a concubine, the Li family might not agree to betroth their daughter to him based on how much they loved their daughter. Likewise, they would not really look around for him. When the doctor asked for medicine to treat his eyes, Lu Cheng took the Li family as a refuge. At this time, Meng Qiqi said that Lu Cheng was a sincere and good person who refused to tell the truth for fear of harming the Li family. Sure enough, there is a pot with a lid. Zhou Yu puts on the yellow lid, and everyone is willing to hit it and the other is willing to suffer. Kui, at first you were just a girl that I bought back with my money. Even if you later married King Cheng as you wished, now you are just a concubine of King Cheng, neither his original wife nor his legitimate wife. What do you think you have? Are you qualified to be worthy of my sisters? Lily smiled sweetly. In the plot, Meng Qiqi had sharp teeth and a sharp mouth. In the end, Li Beihe was heartbroken to death. Now it was her turn to be speechless. Looking at Meng Qiqi's pale and green face, Lily seemed to have a smile in her eyes, but thank you for your kindness in taking away my husband in the past. If you hadn't taken Lu Cheng away that day, how would I have understood that in fact, Axia was always the most important in my heart? I almost missed him. When Lily finished speaking, Yingxiu, who had always had a gloomy face, subconsciously turned her head and lowered her eyes, staring at her in disbelief. Shock, suspicion, surprise, and a kind of complex yet extremely gentle expression flashed through her eyes. With a look on his face, he bit his lips tightly and his chest couldn't help but rise and fall. It was obvious that he was extremely emotional at the moment. Zai. Yingxiu swallowed several mouthfuls of saliva excitedly. He grabbed Lily's hand tightly, so hard that Lily felt some pain in her palm, but Lily seemed not to feel the pain, looking up and staring at him, with a gentle smile at the corner of her mouth. Meaning, Axiu, I was young and ignorant back then. I have always regretted causing you this. If it weren't for Lu Cheng, a hypocrite, if it weren't for Meng Qiqi, a shameless bitch, if it wasn't for my blindness back then, you and I would have. They are supposed to be a perfect match, but now the two of them have ruined your life and ours. Do you think such an adulterer and a bitch should be killed? That's right. Yingxiu's eyes were sore at this moment. He only felt that his nose was blocked and uncomfortable. He originally wanted to say that he was no longer good enough for Lily. He originally wanted to pull away Lily's hand, but Lily held him so tightly that he couldn't struggle for a while. After a while, Yingxiu choked up, his eyes suddenly became moist, and there was a lump in his throat. He paused and nodded with a sobbing voice. He was originally a powerful general manager, and now he was already a figure who could exist alongside these world-famous and otherworldly grand masters. But at this time the Yingxiu was like a child in front of Lily. When she smiled like the sun, tears almost flowed out. But Zai, now I. Yingxiu pursed her lips, tears rolled in his eyes, making his eyes shine in the moonlight. Although there was a smile on the corner of his mouth, his expression was a bit bitter. He wanted to say that he had become a useless person and that he would never have a child with Lily in this life. In this life, he could even give Lily nothing but his own heart. There were many things he wanted to say, but Lily she shook his hand. It's easy to get priceless treasures, but it's rare to find a lover. One sentence made Yingxiu finally shed tears. He also hated Lu Cheng and Meng Qiuqi. If it weren't for these two harmful people, he would have had more. He couldn't bear to blame Lily, and he would even rather hurt himself. How could he be willing to blame someone who was unwilling to harm him? Not to mention. Yingxiu's red eyes looked towards Lu Cheng and Meng Qiuqi, with a fierce light flashing in his eyes. Lu Cheng was startled by his appearance, and he subconsciously took a step back. He Niang, he is just a eunuch. That's all, and you still control the government. Such traitors and traitors will be punished by everyone. If you are willing to submit to me, I will treat you as a concubine after my success. Meng Qiuqi's face was extremely pale at this time, her body was trembling slightly, and she was chanting two sentences back and forth. It's easy to get priceless treasures, but it's rare to have a lover. There are lovers, it's easy to get priceless treasures, but it's rare to have a lover. Okay, a lover. The expressions of the great masters around were also very exciting. I didn't expect that today, when I came to get rid of the great eunuch who controlled the affairs of the Wei Kingdom, they actually heard such an allusion. Several people frowned. For a while, I didn't know whether it was because of their status or because of the inconvenience. Due to his reputation and status, no one had the nerve to make a sneak attack on Lily and the others. On the contrary, the strong man who came later said, "Do you want to fight?" The strong man's words seemed to wake everyone up again. Lu Cheng was shocked and angry. "Yingxiu, you are also from De Wei, and you actually summoned people from De Qi to help. This is obviously an act of betrayal." Xia He is right, where is all the nonsense? It was originally a heartwarming moment, and it was the first time that Lily confessed to him like this, but Lu Cheng interrupted his beautiful mood by speaking, and his Yingxiu expression suddenly turned cold. "Go down, I am a traitor, but you want to replace the Wei dynasty. Everyone is just the same, why do you pretend to be a good person?" A look of embarrassment appeared on Lu Cheng's face, a sinister flash in his eyes. After a while, his cheek muscles twitched slightly. His expression changed rapidly and he glanced at Lily again. "He Niang, have you thought clearly? Although I can't help you. But Qiuqi is your sister after all. In ancient times, there were two sisters, Emperor Yi and Envying, who served the same husband together. I failed you in the beginning, and I will definitely compensate you twice as much in the future." At this moment, he actually still said, having the nerve to say such words. Lily sneered twice. "Prince Cheng, why don't you save your words and think about how to save your life later?" Seeing that what he said repeatedly could not move Lily's heart, Lu Cheng still had a smile on his face, but his eyes slowly turned cold. "That's it? Everyone has his own ambitions. It is inconvenient for me to force myself. I am a beautiful lady, but you are associating with a thief. Please take action, Master Taoist, Mr. G, and his wife. Why say it so hypocritically? Just say this last sentence." The strong man who came last grinned, with a bit of disdain on his face. The palace was originally spacious. Obviously none of the great masters had the intention to change positions and fight again. Lu Cheng and Meng Qiuqi took a few steps back. Before anyone could take action, several more people climbed out of the secret passage one after another. At this moment, no one among the Grand Masters who were facing each other dared to look distractedly, for fear that if they turned their heads, they would be immediately attacked by the opponent. Lily and Yingxiu stood side by side. The big man who came last was obviously the most impatient, and he rushed towards the middle-aged man in grey without thinking. Once he moved, several people standing opposite also moved at the same time. The Taoist priest holding a whisk rushed towards Lily, but the beautiful young woman who originally wanted to deal with Lily had no choice but to rush towards Yingxiu. I originally thought that even if Lily and Yingxiu were Grand Masters, due to the short time they advanced, they would not be as powerful as these old fairies who had reached the Grand Master realm for hundreds of years. However, when the middle-aged Taoist priest and Lily really fought against each other, only then did I begin to feel secretly surprised. As soon as he arrived, he used his most energy-consuming and most powerful move. He originally wanted to kill Lily instantly. Firstly, he can show off his anger at being slapped by this junior, and secondly, he can save his strength. After all, if he can't get along with a young junior for a long time, he may be laughed at by the other two on his side. The three important Grand Masters each have their own masters. Although the three kings of different surnames have temporarily cooperated and joined forces to fight against the enemy, in fact there is not as peaceful a relationship between the three as they appear. For hundreds of years, the three of them have wanted to press the opponent down and become the number one person in the mainland. If he can save his strength, he might have a chance to sneak attack the other two people. Therefore, when the strong man rushed towards the middle-aged man in grey, he actually thought that it was a big bargain, but after the Taoist priest used his special move, he lost a lot of real power in his body, but his palm was like hitting a marshmallow. Lily, who was fighting against him, easily caught his move. Just like she had blocked Lu Shun's attack before, Lily still easily blocked the Taoist's attack with the help of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. The more he hit the Taoist, the more surprised he became. The original strong strength in his body became more and more depleted. Huge, but Lily, who was fighting against him, was out of breath and blushing, and had not even used all his strength. If this continued, wouldn't it mean that his true strength was exhausted in the end, and he would not be able to defeat Lily as he imagined? Is it possible that she will suffer the consequences instead? When the Taoist priest thought about this, his heart sank straight down, and the originally fierce palm strikes gradually slowed down. Seeing the fatigue on his face, Lily drew circles with one hand to use spiritual energy to protect her vitals, and the other one hand quickly summoned spiritual energy into the body, and slapped the Taoist priest's chest with a backhand. The Taoist priest had always taken the initiative and Lily was on the defensive. The Taoist priest didn't take it seriously at first. Subconsciously, he stretched out one palm to catch Lily's hand. Unexpectedly, a majestic power surged into the Taoist priest's body from the junction of their palms. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth coming from Lily's palm began to chaos in the Taoist priest's body. The Taoist priest flew up involuntarily, with the huge internal energy almost bursting his muscles and veins. A mouthful of blood spurted out from his mouth, and he flew straight back. Taoist, several surprised voices shouted at the same time. Lu Cheng, who originally thought like the Taoist priest and the other three, thought he would win today's battle, suddenly looked a little ugly. The Taoist priest moved toward a pile of ruins. It crashed into the rubble, bringing up a burst of dust, and finally fell to the ground. In the ugly faces of Lu Cheng and others, the Taoist vomited out a mouthful of blood and flew out. At this time, he looked in a mess, his hair was messy, the corners of his mouth were still bloodshot, and his eyes were slightly bloodshot. "How many people do you have, Junior? Share your abilities." As he said this, he reached out and took out what he was carrying on his waist. They were two scimitar-like things. The Taoist held them in his palms and played with them for a while. The scimitar made a clang sound, and actually formed the shape of a boomerang. "Why do you two hide anymore? These two juniors are quite capable. It is better to solve it earlier, so as not to miss the important event of the princes." The beautiful woman in palace clothes hesitated for a while, then with a flick of her wrist, a red soft whip was thrown out by her, making a sound in the air. No matter how fast Yingxiu dodges, it dodges. The arm was still slapped, and there was blood on the arm after the clothes were torn. "Uncle, Please help me. Lu Chang, who had been standing nearby with a confident look on his face, suddenly turned around and knelt in front of Lu Shun. Lily Len was stunned for a moment when he heard this title. As if he had found an opportunity, the middle-aged Taoist priest slashed towards her neck with the huge boomerang in his hand with strong winds. Yingxiu, who was dodging under the whip of the woman in palace clothes, saw what was happening here from the corner of her eye. Not caring about the long whip hurting people, he stretched out his hand to grab the long whip, and the tiger's mouth of his palm suddenly split open. However, Yingxiu seemed to feel no pain and grabbed the long whip hard. The beautiful woman in palace attire did not expect Yingxiu to be so strong. She was pulled down by him involuntarily. Her face turned pale and her neck was grabbed by Yingxiu. She only had time to exclaim, "Brother Shun." Lu Shun, who was guarding the side of the Emperor of Wei, floated over. Yingxiu didn't care about fighting with them at this time. She snorted coldly, grabbed the beautiful woman in palace clothes in her hand and threw it hard on the ground. After hitting the woman until blood spurted out of her mouth, he hurriedly dodged and bumped into Lily. He didn't even have time to protect himself, he only had time to knock Lily away. The moment the boomerang was about to fall on his neck, when the real power cut the flesh of his neck, he was hit by himself and became unstable. Lily showed a smile and then closed her eyes. In fact, Lily had been secretly complaining a long time ago. Now she was bumped into by Yingxiu and felt the familiar aura on his body. At this time, she didn't care to turn her head to look. After she stood firm, she slapped Yingxiu with a palm. Driven by the true power, the originally menacing revolving knife stagnated. At the critical moment, Yingxiu's slender body was hit by Lily's palm. A mouthful of blood spurted out from her mouth. Her body tilted to the side, just a hair's breadth away. When the boomerang flew towards him again, the blow that was bound to cut his neck suddenly narrowly missed his neck. Although he suffered internal injuries from this blow, he avoided it. In the plot, the body and head were supposed to be separated, but Lily's eyes showed joy. She took a big step forward and stretched out her hand, and took Yingxiu, who had been kicked down from the air, into her arms. The Taoist priest's face was extremely gloomy at this time. The blow he was supposed to hit was turned into a slight injury due to Lily's intervention, and his boomerang missed. A newly minted Grand Master at a young age, and still a female figure, but his mind is so determined. At that moment, I am afraid that even an old martial artist like them would not be able to think of such a way to injure his body and avoid a fatal blow. She was brave and resourceful in how to attack. She actually came up with such a cunning and weird method. There was a look of fear in the Taoist priest's eyes. It was not only Lily's strength that made him fearful, but also Lily's seemingly rich combat experience at this time. It seemed that it was not as easy to deal with as they imagined. After the Taoist thought of Lily's strange and seemingly inexhaustible power, he began to feel a little afraid of Lily for the first time. Eunuch Lu, do you want to side with the traitors? Lily hugged Yingxiu and quickly stood aside. As soon as she opened her mouth, the strong man who was originally entangled with the middle-aged man in grey quickly separated from the middle-aged man. Both of them looked out of breath, with expressions on their faces. In a state of embarrassment, they stared at each other vigilantly while adjusting the auras in their bodies. Uncle Teju, you are also a member of the Lu family. Even if Grandpa Teju was sorry for you, now things have changed. In such a critical time, do you still want to help the Wei royal family? Lu Cheng was so anxious that his throat was on fire at this moment. The Lu family had been planning for many years to have the opportunity to replace De Wei, but just when it was about to succeed, two obstacles, Yingxiu and Lily, came out. Lu Cheng's eyes showed regret, and he at this time, the infatuation he had felt towards Lily before was gone, and instead he revealed the true and ruthless nature of his character. Why don't you help your great-nephew today? You will still be one of the Lu family's worshippers in the future, why not? Lu Cheng regretted it so much that his intestines were green. If he had known that Yingxiu and Lily would grow up today in such a situation and hindering his affairs, he should have killed these two people on the spot when he married Meng Qiqi and left. If he had been more ruthless, he would have slaughtered the entire Li family when he left. Why would you leave these two troubles for yourself today? It's just that it's useless to regret it now. The big mistake has been made. He really shouldn't have been in love with his children at the beginning. Because of Meng Qiqi, he laid the root of such a disaster for himself. Lu Cheng thought of this. Even though he knew that the matter was over, he would no longer be upset. It was of no use, but he still couldn't help but glared at Meng Qiqi hatefully. At this time, he suppressed the urge in his heart to take out a knife and stab the woman next to him to death. He shouted anxiously to Lu Shun, "Great uncle." Just now, Lu Cheng pretended to be gentle and affectionate in front of her. Now when he saw that she could not submit to him, he immediately showed his true face. Lily sneered twice. She really didn't expect the Guardian Palace. The great master who had been in the martial arts for hundreds of years turned out to be a relative of Lu Cheng. Today, the Grand Master's 3-on-3 battle was tied with each other. Although he was able to handle it with ease, if Lu Shun joined in again, it would definitely bring changes to the originally stable situation. The strong man who appeared from nowhere showed hesitation in his eyes. The color comes, if this person is afraid to leave. When the time comes, he and Yingxiu will face 4 people, hoping to win again. It's not easy anymore. Lily secretly scolded Lu Cheng for being shameless. At this time, she also wanted to retreat. Although she was trying to save Yingxiu's life just now, she slapped Yingxiu and injured him. There must be no hope of revenge today, so why not? Take Yingxiu and leave first, and think about today's energy later. She didn't believe that these 4 great masters would still get together with each other all the time. Well, I am getting old. I have forgotten everything in the past, but now I remember it. Lu Shun, who became the key to the battle at this time, sighed, with a bit of bitterness in his eyes. The expression on the Yingxiu face, which is pale but has a sinister expression, is somewhat complicated. I didn't expect that you and I not only have the title of master and disciple, but also have such similar experiences. We are really destined. Yingxiu struggled to stand up from Lily's arms. When his arms touched Lily's soft body, a few blushes quickly appeared on his pale face. His ears burned and his eyes were confused. Turning around, he didn't even dare to look at Lily out of the corner of his eye. When he heard Lu Shun's words, he was stunned. After coughing twice and spitting out a mouthful of blood, he frowned and looked at Lu Shun. 300 years ago, I also made a vow of eternal love with my beloved, but at that time my family forced me to marry Miss Lu to ensure the stability of the Lu family. My beloved and I were forced to separate, and she was sent to the Wei Palace by my father, and became one of the concubines beside the founding emperor of the Wei dynasty. Lu Shun first glanced at the beautiful woman in palace clothes who was still sitting on the ground and couldn't get up, and then quickly fell into silence. The Grand Master was silently adjusting his inner breath at this time. At this time, only Lu Shun's voice was heard in the original Baohe Hall. In anger, I gave up my position of honor and disgrace and entered the palace as a low-level slave. I stayed by her side and watched her give birth to children for the king of Wei. I watched her hold my hand when she was dying and begged me to protect her descendants. I promised her at that moment that I would preserve the bloodline of the Wei royal family, but now it has been 300 years. Lu Shun's back straightened up and straightened, and his eyes became brighter and brighter. I don't care how you make trouble, but the Great Wei is always the Great Wei of the Great Wei royal family. I don't care what the ambitions of the Lu family are. I only know that I have promised her that the Great Wei royal family can only belong to her descendants and no one can harm her. The woman in palace clothes sitting on the ground coughed when she heard this. It's been 300 years, Brother Shun, you still can't forget it? Grandpa Tasia didn't mean to force you that day. Grandpa Tasia did it for your own good. The marriage between the two great masters will always be beneficial to you. When Lu Cheng heard this, a bad premonition came into his heart. In his mind, he hurriedly opened his mouth to interrupt Lu Shun, but Lu Shun sneered, "You and your great-grandfather are very similar. Is it for my own good to separate me from my sweetheart, or for the generations of the Lu family, prosperity and ambition? You know very well in your heart, I don't care how you fight today, but the empire of Wei must be inherited by her descendants. Even if I am shattered to pieces today, I will not hesitate." Lu Shun said, his eyes falling on Yingxiu, "Axiu, I am really happy. It's a pity that I didn't know the reason why you entered the palace earlier. Otherwise, you and I might not have had to fight each other at this moment, but for the sake of the big brother Wei, I won't give in even an inch." When everyone was silent, Yingxiu suddenly laughed. "If this is the case, then the master may definitely join forces with me. Ziahe and I have no intention of affecting the country of Wei. Our goal is only Lu Cheng and the Lu family. The country of Wei has its own 9 princes to inherit, and we will. What's the matter?" What he said was obviously beyond everyone's expectation. Even Lu Shun was stunned. Lu Cheng subconsciously exclaimed, "Liar! If so, why did you lure the tiger and drive the wolf away? Introduce De Qi's troops and De Qi's Grand Master to protect the country into the Wei Palace. De Qi has long been eyeing the Great Wei, but if Yingxiu hadn't used the Great Wei as bait, how could he possibly have attracted this Great Master to come forward?" The strong man who had been keeping his eyes closed and crossing his legs to adjust his breath heard this and grinned. "Who said that De Qi is here for Wei? Chitos just discussed with the emperor of the country. In exchange for the land of the Lu family, in exchange for me, and he just joined forces." Yingxiu was well prepared. He used the country as a chess piece to force the 3 kings with different surnames to rebel. He then mobilized the border defense army to besiege the 3 kings with different surnames and became an ally with Daqi, the great enemy of the Wei dynasty. The two sides merged to wipe out the 3 kings, and then used the fiefdom where Lu Cheng was originally located as the price for inviting Qi troops to dispatch. In this way, he could easily borrow money from De Qi without spending a single soldier or a grain of rice from De Wei. With his own hands, he put down the chaos of the Wei dynasty. Lu Cheng's saying of luring the tiger and driving away the wolf was right. Yingxiu used De Qi to eliminate the 3 kings of different surnames, a cancer that had existed in the Wei dynasty for 300 years, but in the end he fed this cancer to wolves. Everyone heard this. Everyone couldn't help but feel chills on their backs. This move was too sinister. In the past, some Taoist priests and others who looked down on Yingxiu, a so-called eunuch, were all sweating profusely, and looked at Yingxiu with a bit of vigilance and the color of fear. People in the Jianghu only know how to fight and kill. At this time, they realize that scheming is far more important than personal strength, and Yingxiu's scheming is no worse than the emperor's scheming. Even though these are great masters who have lived for many years, they all consider themselves to be shrewd. How can it be compared with the Yingxiu who lived in the palace? Lu Cheng didn't expect that he would get such an answer. He was angry and anxious, as if his heart had been hit hard, and he almost spit out a mouthful of blood. He stared at Yingxiu hatefully, and he couldn't stop talking in depression at this moment. "Can't even tell. Master and disciple, do you think this result is satisfactory?" Yingxiu coughed twice. This young man with a weak and handsome appearance had a smile in his eyes, but his method made everyone present dare not underestimate him. Lu Shun suddenly burst into laughter, and there was a bit of sadness and relief in the laughter. 300 years later, if my father knew the consequences of the plan, but in the end his life's hard work was still given away by his disciple, what should it look like? Retribution, retribution. His father separated him from his sweetheart in order to make the Lu family prosperous for thousands of years. Unexpectedly, hundreds of years later, due to some strange combination of circumstances, he would be plotted against by his apprentice. His father's plot at the beginning now seems to be just for others. Just a dowry. The Lu family should have fallen into Daqi's hands by now, right? Lu Xun asked with a smile after finishing his smile. Yin Qiu nodded with a smile, that's natural. The three kings with different surnames thought they had a chance of victory and sent their troops north to occupy the Wei dynasty. But now the Lu family's home base was taken over by Daqi without any effort. Yin Qiu had come up with such a method as early as when Lily wanted to take revenge on Lu Cheng. He was like a meat bun seducing Lu Cheng from the front, making Lu Cheng fall into the trap of his own accord, but he didn't realize it yet. Now that he came to his senses, the situation was over. The Lu family has been operating in the local area for many years. Now once the base camp is destroyed, Lu Cheng still can't believe this fact for a while. You lied. De Wei and Daqi have been enemies for many years. It was because Wei and Daqi had been enemies of each other for many years that Lu Cheng never thought about the possibility of good relations between the two countries. Just as it was natural for men and women to have good relations and give birth to children in this world, Lu Cheng never thought about women. It's like having a good relationship with a woman and giving birth to a child. Now when I hear such a thing, I instinctively don't want to believe it. There are no permanent friends in the world, and there are no permanent enemies. The strong man sneered and stood next to Yin Qiu. This young man's scheming was very terrifying. In addition, he had extraordinary strength, and there was also a fellow who was beside him. Lily, who was at the Grand Master level, naturally made the strong man stand beside Yingxiu and the two. At this moment, Lu Cheng was greatly shocked when he heard the strong man's words, and he couldn't bear it any longer. Blood spurted out of his mouth. Okay. In that case, I will naturally be with you. Lu Xun stood beside Yingxiu in a happy mood. His last-minute decision made the number of great masters on Yingxiu's side suddenly change from 3 to with 4 people in sight. The originally evenly matched situation suddenly turned victoriously towards Lily. On the other side, the Taoist priest and the middle-aged man in grey glanced at each other, their expressions very ugly. The beautiful woman in palace clothes was seriously injured at this time. Although he was sitting on the ground trying his best to adjust his breath, he could not join the battle for a while. In addition, the opponent had another master of the Grand Master realm. Naturally, the Taoist priest did not dare to act rashly anymore. Your Majesty. The middle-aged man in grey hesitated and glanced aside. Originally standing beside him silently, a middle-aged man who came out of the secret passage couldn't help but smile bitterly when he heard the voice of the man in grey. He stood up and said, come on, there are talents in this generation, and I'm afraid that the Great Wei dynasty will not be exhausted. The middle-aged man glanced at Yin Qiu excitedly, but Yin Qiu didn't even look at him from the corner of her eyes. Go, but there is only Lily's figure printed in a pair of pupils, staring at her with a gentle smile on the corner of his mouth. Today I only want Lu Cheng's life, why don't you get out? Hearing this, the middle-aged man's eyes dimmed. The man in grey and the Taoist priest each gave a bitter laugh. After a moment of hesitation, they both stamped their feet and grabbed their respective masters. The prince is offended. Before the man in grey clothes took him away, the middle-aged man in grey clothes had only time to shout to Yin Qiu, I had no choice but to throw you out of the Yin family. If you have time, come back and have a look. The Yin family in Nanjun, the door will always be open for you. The place where Ziahe is my home. Yingxiu reached out and touched Lily's head, and said softly. The venue was empty because the two great masters left with their heads of family. The beautiful woman in palace clothes who was sitting on the ground wanted to stand up, but was unable to do so. Her face turned extremely pale. Brother Shun, you are also from the Lu family. Do you really want to let them kill the Lu family's flesh and blood? Lu Cheng, who had been calm before, heard this and suddenly knelt down with a thump. Uncle, save me, I share the same blood with you. The Lu family still has heirs. As long as the bloodline is not broken, the inheritance will naturally continue. Lu Shun remained unmoved. She refused the request of the beautiful woman in palace attire with a calm expression. "Miss Lu, I understand that it is your responsibility. As long as you raise the children and grandchildren for the Lu family, it is your responsibility. Why do you have to die here today?" The beautiful woman in palace attire suddenly turned pale. She glanced at Lu Cheng and was suddenly speechless. "No, Mrs. Lu, save me." Lu Cheng did not expect that begging Lu Shun would not work at all. The meaning in his words actually seemed to be in favor of killing himself. He was panicked and angry. He first begged the beautiful woman in palace clothes, but when he saw the woman turned her head away, looking guilty, as if she didn't dare to look at his face, his heart sank. He turned to look at Lily again, and suddenly his eyes lit up. "Xia He, save me. Xia He, Niang, have you forgotten the happy days we had at Li's house? I would recite poems and paint for you, I would comb your hair and draw your eyebrows." The more he spoke, the more ugly Yinqiu's face became, her lips pursed tightly, and her eyes revealed evil spirits. Lily looked amused, and stretched out her hand to pull his right hand over. She saw that his right hand was cold and trembling, and the tiger's mouth was a big gash in the place, and blood was dripping down. It was obvious that he had just been injured by Mrs. Lu's whip. He had just been slapped by himself, and his body had suffered internal injuries. At that time, he did not take the initiative to introduce spiritual energy into the body to heal the wound, so at this moment, under the excitement, the wound that had been slowly scabbing began to drip with blood again, as if his thumb and other four fingers were about to. It looked like it was breaking apart, revealing white bones inside, but he didn't cry out in pain. Lily blew into his hand with some distress, and asked gently, "Does it hurt?" When Yingxiu, who had a somewhat ugly face, heard this, she grinned stupidly and shook her head. "It doesn't hurt, it doesn't hurt. Xia He, please spare my life. I am willing to kill Meng Qiuqi immediately. I was seduced by this cheap maid." At this time, Lu Cheng had long lost his previous princely demeanor, and instead looked embarrassed. Between him and Meng Qiuqi, Lu Shun heard the relationship between them clearly just now. Although Meng Qiuqi was indeed suspected of being ungrateful and it was indeed wrong to snatch away the man who regarded her as a sister, Lu Cheng's words at this time were not the actions of a gentleman. Lu Shun could not help but shake his head and stood up. Walking towards the Wei Emperor, who didn't know whether he was alive or dead, he obviously didn't intend to meddle in these nosy matters anymore. When Lu Cheng was begging Lily, Meng Qiuqi, who had been standing behind him for a long time, suddenly screamed, took out a hairpin from her head, and took advantage of Lu Cheng's unpreparedness to insert it straight into the back of his neck. "Go in. I will never let you down." He said these words with great difficulty. The silver hairpin in front of his neck penetrated the flesh with bone and blood. A large amount of blood poured out of Lu Cheng's mouth. He subconsciously wanted to turn back to see Meng Qiuqi. This gentle and lovely girl who had always been beside him seemed to have changed. Her face was extremely pale. When she saw Lu Cheng's face, she grinned at him, and then took out the hairpin from his neck again. And then plunged in hard. Lu Cheng, who had been making a lot of noise just now, slowly twitched and fell to the ground. This incident made everyone a little silent. Meng Qiuqi wiped the bloody hairpin on Lu Cheng's body. Maybe she felt that everyone gaze. She suddenly laughed, looking very calm. "I have wanted to do this for a long time, Xia He, do you know? I have always envied you, very jealous of you, jealous that you have a pair of parents who love you, jealous that you have a fiancé who silently loves you. I am jealous that you have been saved. Prince, but the prince still likes you. I have done so many things for the prince, but he only knows your name. This is unfair, you know. I am also a human being, but my father is not good to me. He is me killed. I killed him because he was a gambler. He wanted to sell me into a shop." As Meng Qiuqi spoke, she brushed her hair with a bloody hand, her movements deliberately elegant. How could a person like you imagine what kind of life I live? You think you bought me to treat me okay? Do you think I will be grateful to you if you spend money for me to study? Do you think I am truly a young lady of the Lee family if you treat me as a sister? No one thinks highly of me, including you. You are so hypocritical. I sometimes see it makes you want to vomit, you know. At this moment, Manquiqui seemed to know that she was going to die, and she did not hide her inner thoughts at all. You just want to use me as proof of your kindness. You want to use me as a joke, you want to show me proof. Someone is protecting you silently, and the high-ranking prince also loves you and knows your name. I am not willing to accept it. I, Manquiqui, am no worse than you. Why does the prince think that you did everything I did? What? Just because you have a good background. As if going crazy, Manquiqui couldn't help shouting, why? I also have the right to fight for everything I have. I don't care about your fake kindness. You are just thinking about yourself. Even if I am fake, I still provide you with food and shelter. Even if I am teasing you, I still have people teach you etiquette and teach you how to read and write. Even if I am hypocritical, but I have prevented you from falling into the land of fireworks, and allowed you to have food to eat, clothes to wear, and even books to read, kept your innocence, and allowed you to marry into Prince Liu's palace. Lily originally thought that this was Manquiqui. There are some tricks, but when I heard her words, I couldn't laugh or cry, and I felt unspeakably irritated. So what if you are unwilling? What does your unwillingness have to do with me? Are you poor? How can you blame God for being unfair about you? Your father is your father because he likes to gamble and betray you. It is only natural that no one regards you as a young lady of the Lee family, because you are not a young lady of the Lee family in the first place. Are you greedy? Do you think that just because of sisterly love, I should share everything with you? I also want to ask, why? Lily was also drunk when she heard Manquiqui's words. Just because she felt it was unfair, she felt unhappy, but had she ever thought that this was unfair to Lily Lee? Just because Li Beihe saved her and was kind to her, she felt that Li Beihe was easy to bully. Li Beihe saved her and was worthy of her sister, so she wanted to share half of everything in the Li family. Li Beihe's status as the eldest lady, she also wants to get it. She also wants to have Li Beihe have an affectionate fiancé. Just because Li Beihe didn't have a father like Manquiqui, so she should be jealous of her, and just because Li Beihe lived a happy life, Manquiqui felt unwilling to do so, as if everyone had to live in poverty and hardship like Manquiqui before she would feel happy and happy. Which robber invented this logic? Who do you think you are, Quiqui? Have you ever looked in the mirror? You are just a lowly slave. Calling you sister is to give you face, and it is the blessing I bestow on you. Lily knew clearly where Manquiqui was at this moment. The most vulnerable, but deliberately irritated her. It's your business that you have a gambling father, but it doesn't matter if I just take you for fun. You are just a fun in my eyes. You take yourself too seriously, son, you take yourself too seriously, but unfortunately, have you ever thought about what you are? Lily's words made Manquiqui's face become even paler. At first, she saw that Lu Cheng's identity was not simple, so she followed him to serve him and take care of him. Unfortunately, in the end, Lu Cheng still thought of herself as Li Lily. Manquiqui was really unwilling to do so. I also hope that one day I can live an upright life in the name of Manquiqui. Rather than in the name of Li Beihe or the maid Li Beihe bought and sold her body to bury her father. She didn't want to be said that she was the adopted daughter of the Li family. She was on good terms with Li Beihe and made Li Beihe happy. Manquiqui, whom the Li family adopted as their adopted daughter, has been working very hard, but why does no one understand her? You and Lu Cheng are actually the same person. That's why you two are so in sync with each other. You are both selfish. Lily sneered twice and saw Manquiqui's face turn pale. In the plot, Manquiqui stimulated Li Bei to the point of heartache. Now that the situation has changed, Manquiqui deserves to be stimulated one day. It's also lucky that you picked up Lu Cheng. He was such a piece of trash. Fortunately, you picked it up. I never missed a treasure like Axiu. Treasure, Manquiqui's face became increasingly pale at this time. She seemed very unwilling to be stepped on by Lily all the time, and now she wanted to fight back in a sharp voice. He is just a eunuch, he is just a useless person, ha 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 ha, treasure. His body is mutilated, but it's because of me. The person you regarded as a treasure at the beginning is not only impossible to harm himself for you today. Instead, he wants to kill you in exchange for his own life. So what about the eunuch? I still love him, Lily. When she heard Manquiqui's sharp voice, an unknown fire welled up in her heart. She wished she could beat Manquiqui to death on the spot, but she held it back. For Manquiqui, beating her to death at this time was far less effective than hurting her soul. Such words obviously stimulated the most vulnerable part of Manquiqui's heart, and her face became increasingly ugly. Only then did Lily feel a little relieved. You spent several years picking and choosing, and finally you picked up the trash that I didn't want long ago. It was nothing more than that. Now that Lu Cheng has been killed by you again, your whole life will be like this. It's all in vain. You're talking nonsense, you're talking nonsense. Manquiqui finally couldn't bear the stimulation and screamed, covering her ears with her hands, you're talking nonsense, you're talking nonsense. I also have people who love me, and people who love me. She chanted in her mouth she was loved, but she could never name a person who loved her. After a long while, Manquiqui suddenly laughed. She stumbled up and muttered, I am also loved. You are talking nonsense, you can't win me. Her eyes were empty, as if she was going crazy. His Highness Baoxin was walking up a long staircase, but at this moment Manquiqui seemed to have lost sight of her. She suddenly turned around and her whole body seemed to be unsteady, and suddenly fell down towards his body. She curled up in pain and let out a shrill howl. Everyone stood on the high platform, only to see her body rolling down, bringing with it a burst of blood and flesh, and soon her figure rolled further and further. The further he went, the more he finally fell under the high platform and could no longer move. The wind was blowing loudly on the high platform. Lu Xun shook his head and sighed. The king of the Wei dynasty had just been hit by the collapsed Baoxin palace. At this time, he was already out of breath. Fortunately, the Wei dynasty still had a ninth prince. At this time, he just inherited the throne, and things ended up where they are now. Although the ending was beyond his expectation and his family was destroyed because of it, maybe this result is the best. Lu Xun hugged the body of the king of Wei and disappeared on the high platform, leaving the beautiful woman in palace attire with mixed expressions for a while. Then she tentatively picked up Lu Cheng's body, snorted coldly, and then followed suit stumblingly. Jump off the high platform. Only Yinqiu and Lily were left in the Baoxin palace. Yinqiu's eyes seemed to have sparkling tears. At this time, he was not the person who planned the fate of the Wei kingdom, nor was he the general manager that everyone in the Wei dynasty feared. He's just an ordinary person who has low self-esteem and can't hold his head high in front of his sweetheart. He always longs for love but doesn't dare to desire it. Zia I am a useless person now. He stammered, saying what he had always wanted to say but dared not say. He tore open the wound in his heart and displayed it transparently. In front of Lily, I can't give you a child in the future, and I can't let you be a normal woman who cares for her husband and raises children. Even if we can only do this, I only have one heart. I am willing to dig it out and show it to you. He can't say sweet words, he can't say touching love words, he only has the most straightforward self, as clear and transparent as crystal. I understand, but Axiu, I just like you like this. I don't want to be a woman who takes care of your husband and raises your children. It doesn't matter if you don't have children. If having children and being an ordinary woman means losing you, then I want to be an extraordinary woman, without children, but I own you." An indescribable excitement surged through Lily's body at this moment, and Lily followed the instinctive feeling in her body and said these words. Tears burst into Yingxiu's eyes, and she hugged Lily into her arms without thinking. He had always wanted to do something like this, but had never dared to do it. Now that he had gotten rid of the barriers and inferiority in his heart became clearer as if the dark clouds had been swept away. Yingxiu rested his chin on Lily's shoulder with complicated eyes. How could he not see it? He knew it. He knew that Lily seemed to have changed since King Cheng abandoned her. He was not a fool. He could see it. He could see the change in Lily, but he always lied to himself that it was just a big change in Lily's temperament after experiencing an emotional blow, but he always knew that Lily was different from the previous Lily. He had a brother and sister to Lily. Love is about love and protection. He loves Li Beihe, but he really loves Lily now. He can see the difference between the two people, but he doesn't dare to ask or think about it, because he has a little bit of it now. His feelings were already a luxury, and he was afraid that if he asked, his little feelings would be like dewdrops in the morning, dispersing as the sun came out. That's good, that's good. He doesn't want much, just a little, and he's satisfied. Holding Lily in her arms, Yingxiu burst into tears, not knowing whether it was because of the shameful darkness in her heart or because of some complicated emotions. After the reign in the Wei dynasty, the people were frightened to a certain extent, but the ninth prince soon ascended the throne, and the rebellion of the three kings with different surnames was easily put down by Yingxiu. Qi soldiers and the soldiers guarding the border quickly retreated to their original position. Place. The cancerous tumor in the Lu royal family was removed, and although Dai's vitality was somewhat damaged, from a fundamental point of view, it has grown better in the future. Because the ninth prince was attached to Lily and refused to let her leave the capital, Yingxiu was forced to stay and continue to handle the government affairs. Different from the previous time when he took the initiative to control the government affairs and wanted revenge, he was extremely depressed at this time. Obviously he could have been with me as soon as possible. If we can live our lives together outside the palace, why should I be tied up in the palace to deal with the little emperor's affairs? At this time, Lily was stuck to the ninth prince and couldn't escape. Lu Shun, who continued to work hard and didn't know when he would retire, was still assisting the new emperor. However, the new emperor obviously refused to pay attention to him, so he was reduced to following him. When Yingxiu heard his complaint, she couldn't help but sneered twice. Who asked you to destroy the Lu family? Naturally, you should continue to do the good things you did. Otherwise, the person sitting here today would be my great-nephew. The two great masters almost started to fight each other with each other's words. In the end, Lily decided that the emperor would leave the palace once he turned 15. Time was running out now. Yingxiu originally wanted to purify himself, even if he was Jin. If you are a Grand Master, your lifespan will be affected to a certain extent, but Yingxiu is satisfied. He is favored by God and can borrow an extra 10 years of his life. He can know the person in his heart and stay with him until he grows old. He already feels very happy. Being able to have someone by his side, he felt no regrets in this life. Even if this relationship was just a flash in the pan, even if Lily regretted it in the future, after all, he had it before and it was complete. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. P.S. The reason for the late update is that I am going to see a house, and I have to go out to hand in materials tomorrow. I may be busy until after the Spring Festival, but this one is 13,000 words, 4.5 updates. I didn't want to cut it off for everyone, so I tried to make up for my sins a little bit. The third update is for Pow. Mo, dear Zion Pseun, 5 more. All the owed rewards have been paid off, and there will be a double update on the 2nd, because today is the 4th update, and the pink ticket will be moved 3 times to the 11th because the 3rd update on the 1st is for rewards and debt repayment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 473. Lily did not live long in this mission. Because of Yinqiu's body, although Yinqiu could not live for more than a few hundred years after reaching the Grand Master realm, she should not have only lived for more than 10 years. But he seemed to be consciously letting his situation get worse. He seemed to have guessed something later. Instead of introducing spiritual energy into his body, he allowed his body to decay. He never asked Lily anything in the end. It seemed that he had guessed everything. The two had only been together for more than 10 years like ordinary people. Lily watched Yinxiu slowly close her eyes in front of her. After completing many missions, this was the first time she watched the person she was tasked with die in front of her. The feeling was very strange. Lily still remembered the pain she felt when she watched Yinxiu die in front of her. After returning to the starry sky, she calmed down instantly. Before she could take a breath, someone came up behind her. An arm was tightly wrapped around her waist. After turning her around, Li Yangzi held her up a little, so that her eyes were level with his own, and then she said with a very calm expression, "You said you liked the people in the plot." This was not the first time that Lily had seen Li Yangzi's face at close range. Looking closer, his facial features were all exquisite. Lily's own face was reflected in a pair of clear eyes. It was not the same face as her name after she entered the mission. The appearance of the same person, but her own appearance, was clearly seen in Li Yangzi's eyes at this moment, as if his entire sight was filled with herself. The feeling was very strange, and Lily's face began to feel some are hot. Li Yangzi pursed her lips at this time, with an expression that seemed a little aggrieved. He held her in his arms like a child, and Lily's legs were wrapped around his waist. She knew what Li Yangzi wanted to say, but Lily's legs were wrapped around his waist. Her cheeks were red, and she could easily say the words to Yinqiu during the mission, but now she couldn't say them out under Li Yangzi's increasingly dark eyes. She was affected by Li Lily's body, and Lily left Li Lily's body at this time. Although she sighed and sympathized a little when she thought of Yinqiu, and was a little moved by Yinqiu's feelings for Li Beihe, she was not as painful and sad as when she was in the plot. Lily licked her lips, feeling more and more sad. Nervous. But no words came out of his mouth. "What do you like about him? You never said you liked me." Although Li Yangzi's tone was still cold at this time, he could not help but reveal a bit of grievance. His personality had always been cold and cold, as if he was not contaminated by dust, but at this time, the cold face that Lily was used to seeing showed a look of childlike grievance. Lily felt as if a weak electric current passed through her heart for a moment, and even her toes almost curled up subconsciously. She put her hands on Li Yangzi's shoulders, her cheeks seemed to be on fire. Whispered, "You know, that's not what I originally said during this mission." She was greatly influenced by Li Beihe, including when she said she liked Yinxiu, and she was also influenced by Li Beihe. At this moment, after leaving the mission, she thought of sympathizing with Yinxiu, but at this moment Lily understood that it was not love. "But you said it, but you haven't said you like me yet." A faint smile appeared at the corner of Li Yangzi's mouth. Then the corners of his lips tightened into a straight line again, and his expression looked very serious. His eyes were fixed on her red cheeks. She didn't dare to look at his face at this time. Her eyes were wandering around. After hearing Li Yangzi's words, she even showed a guilty look in her eyes. Li Yangzi knew that she had suffered when she said she liked Yinxiu. Li Beihe's influence, but even though he knew that Lily was influenced by the original owner in the mission, Li Yangzi still felt a little depressed in his heart, not to mention that he also wanted to use this matter to force Lily to give him an answer, Even at this moment Lily had almost acquiesced in the relationship between the two, but she had never once said that she liked him. Taking this opportunity, Li Yangzi endured the jealousy in his heart, hugged Lily tighter, and coaxed softly. "Say you like me." Lily did feel guilty. Although she didn't mean to say that she liked Yingxia when she became Li Beihe, now Lily remembered that she had indeed said that she liked Yingxia more than once. If Li Yangzi coldly scolded her at this moment, she may still have a rebellious mentality, but he used a somewhat aggrieved tone to coax her at this time, making her unable to resist. Once a man who has always been cold and indifferent showed such a childish expression, Lily could not say no at all. Say something about not liking him. But the words that could be said easily in the plot could not be said under Li Yangzi's gaze. Lily was helpless and panicked. Finally, she simply stretched out her hand to cover Li Yangzi's eyes and pressed her lips against his lips. She originally wanted to kiss her and leave, but how could Li Yangzi miss her rare opportunity to take the initiative when she returned to the starry sky? When Lily was about to turn her head away, Li Yangzi's hand was already caressing the back of her head, breathing intimately. The soft tongue slid across every part of Lily's lips. Lily leaned softly against Li Yangzi's chest, her face like the morning glow. Alas, Li Yangzi got the advantage and behaved well. At this moment, he was caressing Lily's waist with his hand, holding the soft body in his arms, but he sighed softly. Lily didn't know why she heard him sigh. When speaking, she always felt a little guilty in her heart. She could say what she liked to the characters in the plot, but she couldn't say it when facing Li Yangzi. Thinking of this helped her a lot from the beginning, but from the beginning to the end, she couldn't say it. People who have never forced her or anything, now just want to hear her say that she likes him, but she can't say it out loud. Lily hesitated, knowing that if she said that she liked him, the relationship between the two would be different. It was different from before, but after struggling for a moment, she still whispered, "I like you." When Lily said this, she felt her heart beating so fast. Her voice was so soft that she almost couldn't hear it, but Li Yangzi still heard her words. A light flashed in his eyes very quickly, the hand around Lily's waist tightened, and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. After Lily said this, she felt something was wrong and subconsciously wanted to look up at Li Yangzi's face. However, Li Yangzi seemed to be afraid to look directly at her face and turned her head away. When Lily looked up, only seeing the delicate and smooth lines of his jaw and the faintly red ear, she felt a little weird in her heart. When she saw Li Yangzi's embarrassed expression, Lily felt that she was thinking too much. She shook off the feeling of being plotted in her mind, and then thought that she said she liked Li Yangzi, but he had never said that he liked her, and she couldn't help but feel a little unbalanced. But she had no excuse to force him to say he liked her through something like Li Yangzi did. Lily felt a little depressed after suffering a loss. Completely opposite to Lily's mood at the moment, Li Yangzi's eyes lit up. He knew that Lily must be feeling a little uncomfortable at this moment, but he still didn't say anything. What he said on his own initiative was not as good as when others forced him to ask. It was precious when he came out. He would wait until Lily couldn't bear it anymore and asked him if he liked her before he would tell her what she wanted to hear. The more depressed she was now, the more she would care about him in the future. Even if she enters a mission and tells others about her love in the future, she will definitely think of herself, not others. Li Yangzi laughed softly, and the information about Lily in the starry sky slowly emerged. Gender, female, variable. Name, Lily. Age, 21. Intelligence, 83, out of 100. Appearance, 89, out of 100. Physical strength, 76, 100 full points. Force, 50, 100 full points. Spirit, 78, out of 100. Reputation, 42, out of 100 points. Skills, 9 Yang Manual, 9 Yin Manual, Heaven and Earth Gate Tao Te Ching, Southern Gu technique, Star body training technique. Specialties, advanced cooking skills, advanced acting skills, 5 elements, and Bagua, slightly dabbled in. Charisma, 64, out of 100. Mark, Royal True Dragon Spirit. In this mission, except for the increase in intelligence, several other attributes have increased, and even the spirit level increased by 3 points at once. This should be due to the fact that Li Bei's own mental power is higher after being stimulated. The reason is that Lily was almost controlled by Lily's body several times during the mission and felt assimilated by her. Although there were many dangers, there were also many rewards. It has been a long time since her attribute values suddenly increased by several points. Logically speaking, this is a good thing, but Lily really can't be happy when she thinks that the like she just said has not been reciprocated in the same way. This time, Lily didn't stay in the starry sky for a long time because she felt guilty and wanted to accompany Li Yangzi. She wanted to linger and ask Li Yangzi if he liked her, so she made an exception and stayed in the starry sky for a long time. Unfortunately, in the end, she was not as shameless as Li Yangzi and asked. Without saying what he had asked, there was no way to pretend to be as nonchalant as him and get him to say what he liked about her, so after staying for a while, Lily entered the task dejectedly and depressed. When her figure slowly disappeared in the starry sky, Li Yangzi, who had looked cold just now, thought of her unwilling but forbearing expression before, and laughed softly. "Ah hey, do you think there are dragons in this world?" Lily felt a little unwilling to be in the starry sky one moment, and the next moment her body seemed to be pushed up by a pair of soft little hands, and she quickly moved her heart to herself. Her feelings were hidden, and she opened her eyes with caution. A girl about 11 or 12 years old was staring at her with a pair of innocent and clean eyes, as if waiting for her answer. Seeing that Lily did not answer, the ordinary-looking girl couldn't help but ask, "Ah, are there really dragons in this world? If there are dragons, I must be a dragon knight in the future, so that my parents no longer only see my brothers and sisters. I am also the daughter of the Lin family, and I am also the pride of the Lin family." To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan Erwr. Chapter 474. When Lily heard this, she subconsciously reached out and touched her chin. She had not yet received the memory of this body, so this action was purely an instinctive action of the original owner. However, Lily reached out and touched the sparse beard on her chin. At this time, her body suddenly became stiff. It seemed that she had become a man again this time, and she was also an old man with a beard. Thinking of her few experiences as a man in previous missions, most of Lily's face turned dark at the moment. She had no time to answer the girl's question. She subconsciously reached out to touch her breasts, which were flat and flat. Lily stretched out her hand again. Touching her chin, she found that a beard had indeed grown, and she had become a man again. After confirming this, Lily became even more depressed. "Ah hey, don't you like it?" The ordinary-looking girl saw her actions. After hesitating for a moment, she stood up on tiptoes and reached out to touch Lily's forehead. After being unable to do so due to her height, the girl's lips suddenly pursed. "If Ahe feels if you feel unwell, you can go back to the house and lie down for a while. I still have homework to do. I'll see you later, okay?" Lily was eager to accept the plot. When she heard the girl's words, she nodded hurriedly. Seeing that she had agreed, the girl in a pink dress held up the hem of her skirt and said to her. After bowing, the body turned around and ran away like a dancing butterfly. The body subconsciously stretched out its hand, as if it wanted to catch the girl in its palm. Resisting the thought of calling the girl back, Lily glanced around. This is a very exquisite small garden. There is no one around her at this time, but this body seems to be born with strong senses. The sound of the wind all around and the sound of water not far away can even be seen in the distance. There was a shadow, but she heard the sound of someone moving or even talking in her ears. At this moment, because she hadn't received the memory yet, Lily didn't know where the room where this body lived was, so she saw the rose bushes in the corner of the garden from the corner of her eye, and walked towards that place. The rose bushes were in full bloom at this time, and someone had made a small swing underneath. The dense bushes of flowers isolated the world under the swing from the outside. When you sit inside, if you don't go to this side, you can come from other places. You may not be able to see that there is someone here when you look at others. Compared to the gardens that can be seen all around, this is a private place. Lily sat on the swing. He leaned on the swing and closed his eyes. The plot and the memories of the original owner poured into her mind. Fortunately, Lily did not become an old man this time. Unfortunately, she became a young and handsome man. The story in Fenja continent unfolds from a girl named Lin Xiao. The Lin family was originally a middle-class Earl aristocratic family in the mainland. Lin Xiao herself is the second daughter of the Countess of the Lin family. Her eldest son and eldest daughter were very outstanding. Reason: when the eldest son was 13 years old, he was noticed early by a certain great sword sect from the Imperial Academy because of his unique talent in fighting spirit. He was accepted as his apprentice, and now he is only 15 years old, but he has already advanced to the level of an intermediate swordsman. It can be said that he has a bright future. The eldest daughter was even more outstanding. She studied magic with the only great wizard in the Imperial Academy. Because of having such an outstanding pair of children, the Lin family, which was originally just an ordinary person in the empire, became famous. Promote. The Earl and his wife are naturally very fond of such a pair of children who can bring them honor. In comparison, they are particularly fond of this pair of children who have brought glory to the Earl and Lady of the Lin family. Lin Xiao, who was born right after her, seemed ordinary and unremarkable. She did not have her elder brother's talent in fighting spirit and has now become an intermediate swordsman. She also did not have her elder sister's ability in magic. She was born ordinary and her appearance was not as good as her brother's. The elder sister is outstanding, and compared with the previous pair of children, the Lin family and his wife are inevitably a little disappointed with such a daughter. Until her sister was born, although the youngest child did not have the talents of her elder brothers and sisters, her mouth was born to please others. Moreover, this youngest daughter also inherited the beautiful appearance of the Lin family couple, which attracted the attention of the few Lin parents and Lin parents' eyes, so the second daughter in the middle was naturally ignored even more. Under such circumstances, Lin Jiao felt inferior and a little timid. When she was 7 years old, after a fall, her temperament suddenly changed. She began to understand many delicacies that were not available in this era. She even knew a special kind of barbecue. As long as the food was handled by her hands, it would appear particularly delicious. As a result, she naturally and slowly attracted the attention of the Lin family couple. She will also get to know some special medicinal materials called ginseng. This type of medicinal material is not known to anyone in this world, but she knows how to use these medicinal materials to make wine. Once the swordsmen and magicians drink it, they will become angry. And magic power can be greatly increased, and strength can be accumulated quickly. Just because of Lin Jiao's sudden change, she was originally a poor little person who no one knew about in the Lin family, but she gradually attracted the attention of her parents, brothers, and sisters. She can make some pastries that people in this era cannot make at all. Therefore, the unruly little girl in the family started to like to pester her. Later, after discovering the changes and value of her daughter, Ms. Lin prepared to train her daughter well. Although Lin Jiao was not as talented as her eldest son Lin Qi and her eldest son, compared with the daughter Lin Qian, the unique ginseng wine she can make can increase the fighting spirit in the human body. This talent is more popular than some swordsmen and magicians. Mrs. Lin saw this daughter going. She wanted to know her future, so after asking around, she found a teacher named Long Beihe for her daughter to teach her aristocratic etiquette and various rules. And this Long Beihe actually comes from the other side of the world, and is the prince of the dragon clan who guards the abyss between this world and the demons. Long Beihe entered human society to experience before he reached adulthood. He likes the rules and etiquette of human society. And he got to know many interesting things here. Originally, Long Beihe thought that after staying in the human world for 10 years, he would return to the dragon clan to fulfill his obligations. Unexpectedly, he met his nemesis. Dragons are very rare in this world. Although the dragons are powerful, both in terms of physical strength and natural affinity for magic, they are far superior to any race in this world. However, they are not without flaws. The reproductive capacity of the dragons is low, and every dragon, although the lifespan is long, a new dragon may not be born in the entire clan every few hundred years. In addition, many dragons are injured and die when the dragon clan fights against the demon clan. Therefore, dragons are the only one in this continent. Although majestic dragon knights always appear in stories to coax children, in fact, in real life, dragons are just legendary creatures, and some so-called dragon knights are just the empire captured some magical beasts known as earth dragons. Although these magical beasts are powerful, in fact, in the eyes of real dragons, they are just ant-like creatures. At the beginning, Long Beihe accidentally met someone from Lin Jiao's maternal grandfather's family because of his incarnation as a human, and was introduced to the Earl's house to teach Lin Jiao the customs, history, and etiquette of this continent. Although Lin Jiao had certain abilities in a certain aspect, she has extraordinary talent, but she seems to be very lacking in some common sense that ordinary people know. At first, Long Beihe just regarded this mission as a way to kill time. The dragon clan has a long and boring life. Human beings only have a short lifespan of several decades. Even if their lifespan becomes longer after being promoted to the Great Sword Sect and the Great Mage, in the eyes of the dragon clan with almost endless lives, it is just a snap of the fingers. Originally thinking that he came to the Lin family to spend a few years at the request of a human friend, Long Beihe even thought that after completing this task, he could fulfill his wish to travel the entire continent and return to the dragon clan to shoulder his responsibilities, but he did not expect that in the process of getting along, he began to be gradually attracted to Lin Xiao, a child who was different from all the girls in the world. He watched her grow up slowly, watching her sometimes be weirdly smart, sometimes like an innocent child, and then she seemed like she looks like an old man who has seen through the world, showing an expression that even he finds interesting. In addition, this girl can make some cakes that have never been seen in this world. She can come up with unique ways to eat barbecue. She can adding some weirdly named ingredients like cumin or ginger and other ingredients that no one in this world has ever heard of made the barbecue taste even more wonderful. Later, Long Beihe began to feel that he liked it. From the time Lin Jiao was 7 years old, Long Beihe transformed into Baihe and became Lin Jiao's teacher, guarding her for 10 years. 10 years can make a man watch the girl he likes and admires grow up, and his initial liking can turn into love. 10 years of guarding can make a cold-hearted dragon fall in love with an ordinary human girl, and he begins to love her. After falling in love with Lin Xiao, from the beginning he was only by her side to complete the task, but later on he couldn't leave her at all. He likes everything about Lin Xiao and is willing to stay by her side as a teacher to help her and protect her. When she is in danger, Long Beihe is always the first to show up. When she is in need, Long Beihe always responds to her requests. Lin Xiao began to shine among the new generation of Imperial College students. Her ginseng wine helped her a lot. Although she could not practice fighting spirit and magic, She always had unexpected ideas in some fantastic things. Her performance in alchemy was shocking. The only alchemy master in the empire cried out to accept her as a disciple. Long Bei was proud of Lin Jiao's achievements and thought about confessing his love to her. Suddenly, urgent news came from the Dragon Clan. Monsters from the Abyss Demon Clan had escaped into the mainland. People in the clan asked him to go back immediately to deal with some matters. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 475. The matter related to the safety of the entire continent. Although Long Bei had no choice but to leave Lin Xiao, he still said goodbye to Lin Jiao and returned to the Dragon Clan. As the crown prince of the Dragon Clan, he would wait until the matter was settled and drive the remaining monsters back. Abyss. When Long Bei returned to Lin Xiao, he heard that Lin Jiao was attacked by demons during a certain school trial and was now in danger. Human life is very fragile. When he saw the demonic energy wrapped around his sweetheart's body absorbing her life force, Long Bei's heart was as sharp as a knife. In order to save Lin Jiao's life under such circumstances, he could only sign a master-servant contract with Lin Xiao. Give her half of your endless life and energy to save her life. In the past, the arrogant Dragon Clan never disdained to surrender to humans, but in front of his beloved girl, Long Bei was willing to lower his head and let go of his pride as the Dragon Clan crown prince. He shared everything he had with Lin Xiao, who was bound to die. Lin Xiao came back to life, but Long Bei began to feel that something was not right. He was originally a golden dragon and a symbol of light, but after signing a contract with Lin Xiao, he seemed to be surrounded by a trace of demonic energy. Like this, the demonic energy eroded his body and magic power, and he began to gradually become weaker. After Lin Xiao woke up, because she shared half of Long Bei's talent and strength, her physical body began to become more powerful, and she began to have super strong magic perception. The fighting spirit that used to be extremely difficult for her now seems to be different from she became closer. In the past, it was very difficult for her to learn magic. Now, the magic can automatically enter her body without her needing to meditate. After knowing that Long Bei, as the crown prince of the Dragon Clan, actually signed a contract with Long Bei and became a Dragon Knight, Lin Jiao felt very excited at first. She couldn't help but compare her becoming a Dragon Knight with the parents said it. Naturally, Long Bei's identity as a dragon could not be preserved. He was originally the prince of the Dragon Clan and should have been aloof, but now he has become a slave of humans. The entire Dragon Clan is ashamed of him. The Dragon Clan, which used to be proud of him and loved him as the future leader of the Dragon Clan, began to feel ashamed of him. Although Long Bei had to bear all this, he did not blame his beloved girl because Lin Jiao promised him that she would inherit the legacy of the Dragon Clan. After driving the demons out of the entire continent, and then using her own abilities to contribute to mankind, she will definitely repay Long Bei's love and live in seclusion with him. In order to repay Lin Jiao's love, Long Bei had no regrets about being scolded, and he began to follow Lin Jiao with all his heart. Putting aside the previous dignity of the Dragon Clan, he was desperately trying to help his beloved girl. Lin Jiao was admired and loved by people across the mainland because she became a Dragon Knight. She began to be reused by the Lin family, and she began to shine. A weird black cat even appeared next to her. The black cat was super powerful, which added to her reputation. Long Bei seemed to feel that he and the black cat were inherently at odds with each other. He had mentioned to Lin Jiao several times asking her to drive the black cat away, but Lin Jiao didn't take it seriously. This black cat is her pet, and it is very powerful. She could no longer leave. Long Bei asked her to get rid of the black cat. Lin Jiao seemed to think that Long Bei was competing with a pet. This made Lin Jiao feel that Long Bei was narrow-minded and began to treat him. Gradually he became impatient. She originally promised Long Beihe that she would be with him in the future, but now that Long Beihe has washed away the mysterious aura of the Dragon Crown Prince and turned into an ordinary slave for her to control, Lin Jiao's mentality has changed. Slowly began to change, and his attitude towards Long Beihe also changed from being coquettish at the beginning to being polite and distant, to giving cold orders and instructions. Long Beihe had always been holding back. In the past few years, more and more demons in the abyss seemed to have overcome the dragon clan's obstruction. The entire continent was suffering from it, and the dragon clan suffered heavy casualties. Unfortunately, he has been expelled from the dragon clan now. Not daring to go back to see the current situation of his tribe, he followed Lin Jiao on his expeditions north and south. Lin Jiao became more and more famous in the mainland, and the relationship between her and Long Beihe naturally became more and more distant. Until later, Lin Jiao became more and more famous in the mainland. Her reputation swept the entire continent, and the estrangement between her and Long Beihe became deeper and deeper. Gradually, the relationship between one person and one dragon became colder and colder. Long Beihe was once worried about such a situation, but when the demons on Fenja continent when most of the clan was driven back to the abyss, Long Beihe asked Lin Jiao to live in seclusion with him. Only then did Lin Jiao say that the two of them were not suitable and should break up. Hearing Lin Jiao's answer, Long Beihe couldn't help but want to laugh. He had paid so much for Lin Jiao. He had put aside his pride and self-esteem for Lin Jiao, and for her, the majestic prince of the dragon clan, was driven by her like a slave. She gave up her self-respect and pride and now became her slave. When the two of them could never be separated again in their lifetime, Lin Jiao thought that they should break up. Once a master-servant contract is signed, unless they die, even the arrival of the creator cannot separate the two. Now that Lin Jiao actually asked him to leave, where could he leave? If he wants to force separation, the master-servant contract will destroy his body and soul. When Long Beihe remained silent, Lin Jiao felt guilty and said she wanted to make it up to him. How could a love that was forced on her lead to happiness? Long Beihe thought that Lin Jiao had become impatient with him over the years. He had just been deceiving him. She was only doing it for all mankind. In fact, when the status of the two suddenly changed, a woman who once needed his protection he began to slowly become overbearing, and when he, who was once aloof in front of Lin Jiao, could be stepped on by her at any time, in fact, others no longer valued this sincerity. In Lin Jiao's eyes, the status of the two of them may no longer be the same in the future. As equals, he has changed from a superior dragon to her slave. She no longer cherishes him, so how can she still like him? Lin Jiao apologized to him and said that she would try her best to find a way to terminate the master-servant contract between the two, but the black cat next to her suddenly transformed into a tall and handsome man. Lin Jiao hugged her, and before Long Beihe could react, she was knocked to the ground by this man. The golden dragon should have been very powerful physically, but during the years when he signed a contract with Lin Jiao, Long Beihe felt as if his body was being corroded by an evil force. It wasn't until he saw this evil man appearing that he suddenly realized. No wonder he always felt that he disliked this black cat. This black cat, the cat carries the power of the monster from the abyss, and it is very powerful. He was suppressed in the form of a cat before, so he couldn't feel it. He just didn't like it instinctively, but until this time the black cat turned into a human form, the power was revealed. The man had an intimate relationship with Lin Jiao in front of Long Beihe, and confessed his identity. He was originally one of the most powerful lords among the abyss monsters, but because he had been sealed by the damn dragon god for many years, when Long Beihe, the crown prince of the dragon clan, was not among the dragon clan, he tried to find a way to let his loyal subordinates cover him and escape from the abyss territory. He felt the dragon clan aura on Lin Jiao's body, so he took the initiative to sign an equality agreement with her. According to the treaty, the dragon god seal on this man can only be lifted with the original energy of the most sacred golden dragon in the dragon clan. He signed a contract with Lin Xiao, and Lin Xiao was infected with demonic energy. In order to save her life, she fell deeply in love with her. The crown prince of the Golden Dragon clan finally put aside his arrogance and signed a master-servant contract with her. From then on, Long Beihi's dragon origin energy has been nourishing the Abyss Lord through Lin Xiao, and Long Beihi's lifespan and powerful sexual ability have been divided by Lin Xiao for most of it, which is equivalent to him alone. The three people absorbed it, so he began to feel that he was getting weaker and weaker, so he began to feel that the dark energy in his body had been corroding his body and magic power. When the truth came out, Long Beihi couldn't believe his ears. He couldn't believe that everything he did for Lin Xiao was actually a deal she made with the Lord of the Abyss. What's more important was that after Lin Xiao agreed to fall in love with him, secretly fell in love with the Lord of the Abyss. The Dragon clan has always lived a monogamous life because it is not easy to inherit children. Both husband and wife are very loyal to love. Long Beihi never thought that Lin Xiao's heart would become so fast. Although he has lived in human society for many years, he has not learned the trick of breaking up if you don't love him anymore. He always thought that love would last a lifetime as long as both a man and a woman recognized it. Now it seems ridiculous. He wanted to attack the monster, but Lin Xiao restricted him with a master-servant contract and asked him not to hurt his lover, otherwise it would be detrimental to him. Seeing this woman who was now declaring war on him with the power he had given her, Long Beihi couldn't help but smile bitterly. Long Beihi, whose strength was not as strong as before, was no longer Lin Xiao's opponent, but she was tolerant and did not kill her on the spot. She just asked Long Beihi to leave, but after signing the master-servant contract, how could the dragon be separated from his master? If Long Beihi was driven away by Lin Xiao, he would be killed by the backlash of the contract, but because Lin Xiao was the master, she would not be affected. At most, it would just be one less pet for her. In the end, Long Beihi still had no match for the Abyss Lord who had escaped. The Abyss Lord could not tolerate the existence of a love rival beside his woman, nor could he tolerate the survival of the descendants of the dragon god who had sealed him. He personally sent his men to secretly pursue and kill him. Long Beihi, although Long Beihi escaped, was seriously injured, but Lin Xiao shared everything with Long Beihi and had an endless lifespan. Finally, she and the Lord retired together and lived a happy life. Later on the mainland, the legend of Lin Xiao's only golden dragon prince, the Dragon Knight, and her ability to drive away the demons spread, but no one knew that the dragon that had brought everything to Lin Xiao was hunted down by monsters. He was seriously injured and fell down in the famous forest of the mainland. Listening to the rumors about the mainland, he died in excruciating pain. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan Erwr. Chapter 476. Lily sat on the swing and wiped her face. The swing swayed slightly because of her movements. A breeze blew by, and the fragrance of roses hit her face, which made her feel a little depressed after becoming a man. After a while, the person who held her hand and called her Ahi was the faceless but talented Lin Xiao in the plot. Lin Xiao was the most embarrassing person in the Lin family at this time. Although she found she came up with delicious food such as surprising medicinal wine that can increase people's fighting spirit and lovely pastries and barbecues, but she herself has no strength. For now, although the Lin family has begun to pay attention to this daughter, there are more, but he treats her as a promising marriage partner in the future. Lin Xiao used to be a defective product. Under the halo of her brothers and sisters, she had neither dazzling appearance nor extraordinary qualifications. Therefore, the Earl and Countess just regarded her as a useless daughter. Now Lin Xiao has some ability, but because of her own weak strength, she is destined to be unable to bring any achievements or benefits to the Lin family. Therefore, Father Lin and Mother Lin just want her to learn more etiquette at this time, and use it as a high-priced item in the future. Marry her into a powerful family in exchange for benefits for the Lin family. Originally, Long Bei didn't know what kind of identity Lin Jiao was, but Lily could guess from her knowledge of ginseng and some simple theories of Chinese medicine that people in this magical world didn't know that Lin Jiao should have traveled through time. Yes, Lin Jiao Bei in the plot can see that she is definitely not willing to be an ordinary person, let alone being married off by the Lin family at will, so she will find a way to resist. In the end, Long Bei suffered a lot. In this mission, Long Bei's wish is to clear up the relationship with Lin Jiao and return to the Dragon Clan. The Dragon Clan originally had a very close relationship with each other due to their small number, but in the plot, Long Bei is willing to do it for Lin Jiao. Giving up his identity as the crown prince of the Dragon Clan and following her in the end was a disguised betrayal of his clan. What's more, in the end, the demon lord who followed Lin Jiao lifted his seal by absorbing the original dragon god power from Long Bei. The strength is very powerful. Therefore, he secretly returned to the Abyss territory and rescued the demons loyal to him. Because of the demon lord's restored strength, many demons broke through the dragon guards and escaped. The Dragon Clan originally trapped these sealed demons and blocked them from the human world. In order to protect these mortals, they formed an undying hatred with the demons. Once these monsters are released, you can imagine how the Dragon Clan will be treated. Long Bei later returned to the Dragon Clan because he was too embarrassed. Finally, when he wanted to return to the Dragon Clan after knowing that Lin Jiao used him to help the demons out of trouble, he was stopped halfway. He was chased by the demon lord's men, but not a single dragon came to help him along the way. Even though he had left the clan, the Dragon Clan had always protected him. If they knew that he was in trouble, it would be impossible for a group of similar people to ignore him. Before Long Bei died, he guessed that most of his people might have been in trouble already. Otherwise, if there were still dragons alive, these demons would not be able to save him. Might be able to escape. When he thought about this, Long Bei hated himself extremely before he died. He hated himself for being blinded by self-righteous love. It would be fine if he was unlucky, but if everyone of the same kind was implicated by him, he won't forgive himself. Therefore, Long Bei's wish is not only to stay away from Lin Jiao and no longer work for her in this life, but the most important thing is that Long Bei decides to protect the Dragon Clan this time and seal the entire demon clan at the bottom of the abyss, so that they will never be able to come out again forever. Lily wiped her face, and when she touched the obstructive beard, she couldn't help but let out a long sigh. It didn't matter if she turned into a man, but it would be fine if Long Bei wanted to take revenge on Lin Jiao, but his wish was to protect her. For the entire Dragon Clan, this task was undoubtedly much more difficult, and the task might take a very long time. She stood up and shook hands. This time, the body of Long Bei she became was very powerful, and because of the dragon she was born with dragon language magic, which was quite new. Lily subconsciously chanted a few weird tones in her mouth. Under the clear and deep voice, a large amount of spiritual energy poured into her body. Lily felt it carefully. Which is slightly different from the previous spiritual energy of heaven and earth. These spiritual energies should be the reason why Long Bei was born as the darling of heaven, so she can easily distinguish which spiritual energies are water molecules and which spiritual energies are other natural elements. Long Bei is a golden dragon, which is an attribute of light in natural elements. As long as there is light in this world, his power will naturally increase. To increase the strength of this world, if you are a swordsman, you need to constantly practice fighting spirit. This requires the accumulation of time, just like the martial arts world she has entered. In addition to extraordinary talent, it also requires accumulated practice and a lot of adventures to create a so-called great sword sect and a great mage. This elegant continent is divided into 4 countries, but the total number of great sword sects and great magicians is only 7. The strength of each great magician is almost the same as the current Long Behi, because Long Behi is still young now, and Long's strength increases with age, because Long himself is already the darling of the Creator God. All the cultivation methods in this continent are not suitable for them. They only need to grow with age. The physical strength becomes stronger and stronger, and they are naturally superior to other races. But Lily didn't believe this argument, so she subconsciously stretched her muscles and did a star training movement. Sure enough, she felt the spiritual power that had been dissipated because she stopped chanting dragon language magic just now. It began to rush into her body crazily again. Because this body was naturally strong, it was not afraid of being overwhelmed by too much spiritual power. Instead, a large amount of spiritual power poured into her body, making her feel like it was all over the body. Lazy and very comfortable. Sure enough, the star body training technique is easy to use no matter what kind of technique it is combined with. As long as she can lay a good foundation, she may be able to use many inherited magics in the dragon clan that Long Behi cannot use at this time. As long as you have strong strength, that is the foundation for your success in this mission. Whether you want to suppress the demons or seek revenge on the so-called Abyss Lord, you need strong strength. In the later stage of the plot, Long Behi, because the light attribute was polluted by the evil spirit of the demons, his strength was greatly reduced, so he was no match for that lord. But in the end, even the lord's minions were able to seriously injure him to death, which was useless for the proud dragon clan. It's a huge blow. Before Lily could get up, a delicate voice suddenly rang out, "Ah hey, why are you still here? What were you doing just now?" A girl wearing pink clothes, with slightly curly maroon hair hanging around her body, walked over with a tray in both hands. Her big maroon eyes were filled with curiosity and excitement. It was obvious that Lily had just made the movements of Xingqian's physical training attracted a large amount of spiritual energy that caught her attention. Although Lin Jiao was less talented in magic, she was not without complete perception. Anyone in this world can practice magic, but if the qualifications are poor and the perception of magic is too low, then the affinity of the magic elements is not enough, the source of the elements cannot enter the body. Naturally, it will be very difficult to upgrade, and many magic materials in this world are very expensive, so there are only a few people who learn magic, and even fewer people have achieved success. Magicians are also a highly respected profession in this world. Lin Jiao held something like biscuits on the tray in her hand, exuding the aroma of cream. She tilted her head and stared at Lily. Seeing that Lily ignored her, she couldn't help but stamp her feet and call out, "Ah hey, you haven't answered me yet. What are you doing here? What are the actions you just did? Can you teach me too?" Although she didn't know the meaning of Lily's action just now, Lin Jiao felt the fluctuation of magic power. Even if she is a person with very low magic power perception in the eyes of the Lin family, to use a modern saying, just like a natural insulator, she could feel the surge of magic power caused by Lily just now. Naturally, one can imagine how strong the magic power Lily had attracted before, which made Lin Jiao's heart begin to beat fiercely. The body she entered was a loser who couldn't practice fighting spirit or even magic. Lin Jiao was a company executive in her previous life. Although she was not married until the end of her life, she had her own goals and persistence. She was not willing to give in, but believed that as long as she dared to fight, she would definitely win. She would have a chance to live again, which she cherished very much, even if Lin Jiao's body was born with low sensitivity to magic and could not. She practiced fighting spirit, but she did not give up. She made ginseng wine that could increase fighting spirit and magic. This magical world had everything, and no one had discovered the effects of ginseng. However, she ate a lot, but the effect was always very low. She has been practicing yoga even after entering this body. Now this body is very flexible. The older she grows, the more graceful she can see the body. However, it is not good for practicing magic and fighting spirit. Not much help. Now Lin Jiao accidentally discovered that an ordinary etiquette teacher who had been with her since she was 7 years old could attract such a large amount of magic power, and even she could sense it, which made Lin Jiao feel a little excited. Her experience as an executive in her previous life told her that knowing people must be put to good use. She never expected that the ordinary etiquette teacher next to her would turn out to be a treasure. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 477. At first, Lin Jiao thought that if she had a chance to live again, she would not let go of anything she could learn. Lin Jiao was also the best at dancing, so her relationship with Long Bei was not bad, and they even maintained a good relationship. It could definitely be called friendship. Lin Jiao felt that if she worked harder, it wouldn't be difficult to get closer to Lily and let her teach her magic power. At this time, Lin Jiao began to really examine Lily. Although Long Bei's disguise appeared to be a tall but somewhat thin old man, in the past, because of the age of the person Long Bei pretended to be, Lin Jiao didn't think much about it, and what Long Bei taught her before was only etiquette. Although etiquette was useful to Lin Jiao, it was not that important. But it was different now. She didn't expect Long Bei to teach her etiquette. But he actually hid it so deeply. Lin Jiao's eyes suddenly became a little eager. She needed the strength to change her current situation. She knew that if she didn't work hard, the Lin family would probably arrange a marriage for her in 4 or 5 years at most. She will be married off by the Lin family like a commodity. She did not come to this other world just to be manipulated by others. Miss Lin Lily nodded to her coldly and politely. Long Bei's experience made her instinctively dislike Lin Jiao. In modern society, it is natural for men and women to come and go when they don't agree, but since Lin Jiao accepted Long Bei's kindness, she shouldn't say the so-called breakup so easily, not to mention that in the last few years, she had a fierce fight with the Demon Lord while dealing with Long Bei. Congratulations. Her cold attitude toward him and this ambiguous look hurt people even more. Although in Lin Jiao's own opinion, this was the reason why she couldn't bear to tell the truth and stimulated Long Bei, but if she didn't love him deeply and didn't give up completely, she couldn't leave him. Long Bei asked for help, but was unwilling to tell him clearly. In the end, the ambiguity was really hurtful. Lily frowned in disgust, and Lin Jiao instantly felt Lily's displeasure towards her. She thought that she respected the former Long Bei, but for some reason Bei became a little disgusted with her just during the short time of making cookies, but Lin Jiao didn't seem to notice it at this moment. With a cold attitude, Lily said to Lily in a sweet voice, "Ahi, come and try the biscuits I made by myself. If they taste good, tell me what you were hiding here just now." The girl's immature appearance is Lin Jiao's best cover. In the plot, Long Bei was attracted to Lin Jiao step by step and couldn't help himself. But at this time, Lily's old and faded manly appearance concealed an indifferent woman's heart. Lin Jiao could not do anything better at this time. Cuteness cannot arouse the slightest affection from her, not to mention that this body has an instinctive aversion to Lin Jiao from the beginning, and Lin Jiao even holds a cute cookie to her mouth. Lily still just took a step back. "I'm sorry, Miss Lin I received some unpleasant news before. I'm afraid that the etiquette class teaching you must stop. I am very grateful to you and the Lin family for taking care of me in the past few years. I regret that I can no longer continue. Let's get along with you." After saying this, Lily didn't care about Lin Jiao's awkward and stiff expression. She looked a little confused at this time. Lily passed by her, and Lin Jiao subconsciously reached out to catch her. "Wait a moment. Please. Wait a moment." The louder she shouted, the faster Lily walked. Lily was preparing to leave the Lin family at this time, so she had no intention of hiding her strength. It was not the first time that she became a dragon, but it was the first time that she became a dragon in a magical world. The feeling was very strange. There seemed to be an aura and light in her body. Once Lily walked quickly and had no intention of controlling her speed, the wind elements began to gather under her feet, and slowly lifted her body up. Lily just feeling that her body was light and airy, Lin Jiao's shout seemed to be getting farther and farther away, and the Earl's mansion of the Lin family was gradually out of sight. Only then did she stop controlling the instinctive feeling in her body that wanted to transform. After rushing into the sky, her body began to move rapidly. The dragon turned into a dragon. With the help of the wind element when she transformed into a dragon, Lily flew faster. Lin Xiao, who was left behind by her at this moment, was dumbfounded. Only then did she know that the teacher invited by the Lin family had such abilities. When she just saw Lily rising into the sky and slowly leaving, she carefully thought about her knowledge of magic after coming to this continent in the past few years. She had also seen her sister Lin Qian use magic. Even Lin Qian, who was known as the Star of Hope of the Empire's Future Magic Association, could not easily summon the wind element to fly with her bare hands and without using a magic wand. She began to suspect that Lily was a magician. When Lin Jiao thought that there had been this mage may have lived with me for several years, but I didn't let him teach me magic, so my face looked a little ugly. Hope was so close to her, but she didn't catch it. Thinking that Lily just said that she had something to do and she left without saying hello, Lin Jiao looked uncertain for a while, secretly hating Lily for being ruthless and ruthless. After a long time, she seemed to have thought of something, and ran decisively towards Long Beihi's room. At this time, Lily became a mysterious person in Lin Jiao's mind. At this moment, Lily suddenly left again, and Lin Jiao suddenly left. Jiao felt that as a powerful person, there must be something left behind, so she wanted to go to the room where Long Beihi once lived. If she could find something useful, she might be able to practice by then. Magic. As for whether the things Long Beihi left behind were important, Lin Jiao couldn't care less at this time. After all, they were useful things. Since Lily had left, it proved that she didn't want them anymore, not to mention that they were owned by the Lin family. Everything naturally belongs to her. Thinking of this, Lin Jiao was deeply afraid that others would discover Long Beihi's secret. Fortunately, there was no one in the garden at this time. She felt happy as she ran. Lily didn't know what Lin Jiao was thinking at this time. After entering the clouds, her body instinctively flew towards Dragon Island. Dragon Island is located on the westernmost mountain top of Fenja continent, except for the huge ocean in the middle. In addition, he also has to experience a dangerous snow-covered forest, which is probably about transforming into a dragon and flying around sleeplessly. It will take more than 2 months to return to Dragon Island. Lily plans to take advantage of this period to get acquainted with it. Before she could stop in the forest with this body and dragon language magic, her whole body shook, and her soul seemed to float out of Long Beihi's body. Ziahe Li Yangzi's voice rang in her ears. From the corner of Lily's eye, she could only see Long Beihi's body still flying towards Long Island. She was suddenly taken back to the starry sky by Li Yangzi. This was the first time she was called back by Li Yangzi during a mission. When she was confused, Li Yangzi reached out and pulled her into his arms, lowered his head and touched her lips. "Someone wants to see you." "See me?" Lily raised her head in confusion, and Li Yangzi gently tapped her chin. After a while, his forehead touched hers, and then he let Lily go. When he spread his palms, a figure began to stand in his palms. He stood up, slowly getting bigger and bigger, as if he was still a little confused. Li Yangzi said coldly, "If you have something to say, tell me quickly." After he finished speaking, he glanced at Lily, touched her hair, and then disappeared in a flash. In the starry sky, This was the first time Lily saw a figure other than Li Yangzi appearing in the starry sky. When she saw the tall and thin figure wearing a silver satin robe with smooth long hair hanging behind him, she couldn't help but exclaimed. The voice comes. Axiu, she actually saw Yingxiu in the starry sky. Lily's eyes almost popped out. After leaving Lily's body, her original attachment to Yingxiu no longer existed, but when she saw him seeing the familiar eyebrows, Lily still thought of Yingxiu who had protected her in every possible way, and her eyes gradually became softer. I heard that your name is also Lily. When Yingxiu heard Lily's voice, her eyes that were originally a little hazy quickly became clear. His face was still as pale as before. Seeing him like this, Lily seemed to think of she remembered the way he died in her arms. This was the only example of her male companion dying in front of her among the several missions she had experienced. Yingxiu seemed to be seeking death consciously and had not lived for many years at all. When she saw Yingxiu again, she couldn't help but sigh. Yes, Axiu, you. Being able to appear here and ask Li Yangzi to help him, Lily had a bad premonition in her heart. She looked a little worried, but Yingxiu smiled softly. I heard that He Niang actually no longer exists. She asked you to help take care of me, right? His expression was so pale that it was almost transparent, and now his dark eyes showed a look that was both sad and eager. I know that the adults just now won't lie to me, but, Ziahe, I want to hear you tell me. Seeing Yingxiu's appearance, Lily couldn't bear to hurt him, but she really couldn't bear to lie to him, so she hesitated and nodded. Yes, Axiu, I'm not Li Beihe. I fulfill her wish for her. She has experienced some bad things. She feels that she has missed you and is very sorry for you. Her mission is to fulfill Li Beihe's wish. Saying the words that the original owner didn't have time to say, doing the things that the original owner didn't have time to do, and avenging the original owner, Lily saw that Yingxiu suddenly became a little flustered after hearing what she said. He looked like she didn't want to accept this fact, but she seemed to have to accept it, but she didn't know how to react. At this time, Yingxiu's expression was so fragile and pitiful that Lily couldn't help but sigh again, and for a moment she didn't know what to do. How to comfort him. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. P.S. The third update. Please give me some fans' votes. It's almost Chinese New Year, please save your little fans' votes and give them to me, dears. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 478. I know, I should have known for a long time, He Niang is not like this. Yingxiu calmed down after a while. He took a deep breath and tried his best to control his trembling body. I should guess yes, He Niang is gone now, Xiao He, I should thank you. He finished speaking in a very soft voice and showed an ethereal smile. I thank you for fulfilling He Niang's wish and letting her go without worries. I also thank you for everything you have done for me, and you also your wish came true for me. I'm very grateful, really. Yingxiu had actually noticed the difference between Lily and Li Beihe for a long time. He had watched Li Beihe grow up since he was a child, and his affection for her had been integrated into his bones. Yingxiu was very familiar with her every frown and smile, and Lily entered. She felt something was wrong when she was actually Yingxiu. The girl he had grown up with didn't have such a determined look in her eyes. Li Beihe was like a little greenhouse flower who had never experienced wind and frost. He felt uneasy wherever he went. How could she show such a tough look? She acted so impulsively, while Lily acted calmly. Yingxiu felt something was wrong from that moment on, but he didn't dare to think about it, especially when Lily suddenly changed her attitude and no longer liked Lu Cheng, and when she wanted to take revenge on him all because of herself. Yingxiu also fantasized that the one who liked him was Li Beihe, but in the end he couldn't lie to himself. His wife might really be missing. She might have disappeared as early as the night when Lu Cheng abandoned her. Just disappeared. But Yingxiu kept waiting with that faint hope. He did not dare to ask Lily for fear of getting the truth that he was afraid of. He also longed for the real Li Beihe to like him. He stayed with Lily for more than 10 years amid many conflicts, but he finally died of depression. He wanted to find Li Beihe, but he also hoped that Lily would be her until his death. Later, with a strong desire to see Li Beihe, he met Li Yangzi. "Thank you, Ziahe, for giving me hope." He hesitated for a moment, then bit his lip and stopped talking. His fragile expression showed the helplessness of a child, and he chuckled in panic. He clearly had a lot to say when he wanted to see Lily before, but now that he actually saw her, he couldn't say a word. He has such a personality, so he doesn't like Lily. Lily knew that he understood, that he sympathized with him and had helped him. A somewhat complicated look appeared on Yingxiu's face, and she finally lowered her eyelids to block the thoughts in her eyes. That's what I should do. When Lily heard him say that she helped him, she couldn't help but feel a little guilty. She also needs Lily to pay a price for helping Li Beihe. Li Beihe is probably no longer in this world at this time. Lily looked at Yingxiu, and suddenly felt that no matter what she said to him, she seemed very cruel. She was not afraid of facing fierce and cruel people, but at this moment she suddenly felt a little afraid to face Yingxiu alone. Lily subconsciously looked around, looking at it. She was looking for Li Yangzi's shadow. But at this moment, Li Yangzi disappeared somewhere, as if she had left all the stars in the sky to meet Yingxiu. "I understand. I don't blame you, Ziahe. This is Heniang's choice, and now I have to go with her." Yingxiu seemed to understand the struggle in Lily's heart at this moment, and sighed silently. I'm glad I met you." He also thanked Lily for giving him a glimmer of hope, although in the end this glimmer of hope was shattered. Lily felt something was wrong when she heard this, and quickly asked, "Axiu, where are you going with her? Although Heniang and I are not called husband and wife, we have been an unmarried couple. In my heart, what does it matter whether we are married or not?" Yingxiu pursed her lips and lowered her eyelids, revealing a hint of he smiled. "Since she is gone, what's the point of me still living?" He wanted to follow Li Beihe, but Li Beihe disappeared. Lily had her own place to belong, and he should also have his own place to go. While Yingxiu was talking, his figure began to shake slowly. From a solid shadow at first, it gradually became thin and transparent. "Ziahe, I am very grateful to you. If you were really her, how much would you be?" "Okay." Yingxiu's voice became lower and lower, and he showed a smile of relief or complexity to Lily. "My wish has been fulfilled. I hope you will be happy in the future." He sighed. There were still many things left. She wanted to say something, but at this moment, she couldn't say it anymore. This result was the best. Yingxiu closed her eyes, and her figure slowly disappeared in the starry sky. "Axiu." Lily's heart was heavy. She felt as if she was separated from Lily's body. Her heart that had calmed down seemed to start to tingle slightly again. She murmured something in her mouth, and she didn't know when she opened her eyes gloomily. Li Yangzi, whose face appeared, pulled her into his arms. After Li Beihe's mission was completed, Yingxiu, the soul, also began to ask for a deal, but his wish was not to ask anyone to do it for him. He just wanted to see the girl who loved him instead of Li Beihe. Li Yangzi always felt as if his treasure was being coveted. Even though Yingxiu had actually disappeared at this moment, the feeling as if someone boldly touched her eyeballs made her feel. He was very unhappy, but now Yingxiu has disappeared in this world. Even if he is omnipotent like him, it is impossible to create the same Yingxiu again. Even if he has the ability to create the same world again, another Yingxiu appears, but even if the different souls have the same appearance and name, they are still not the same person. What's there to cry about? Come and tell me. Li Yangzi already wanted to stab someone with a knife at this time, but there was a look of tenderness and care on his face. He instinctively knew that this was a rare opportunity for him. Lily rarely shows such vulnerability. She usually takes care of things by herself, but once she is in a bad mood or is pretending to be something, then it must be a good time for her to show off. He gently hugged Lily into his arms, and Li Yangzi reached out to wipe her tears. It was a good thing to have someone by his side when she was sad. Lily thought of Yingxiu who had just disappeared, and he just followed Lily's footsteps. However, he didn't even see Li Beihi's face in the end. Fortunately, he still had Li Yangzi by his side. At least he had him to comfort him when he felt uncomfortable. Lily felt a little unwilling because she said she liked him before, but now she thinks about it. When I want to say what I like, having that person listen to me is actually a kind of happiness in comparison. I just feel it's a pity to see Yingxiu and Li Beihi. I hope you can always be by my side in the future and don't have any regrets. Lily put her arm around Li Yangzi's waist. Although she felt embarrassed when she said the next sentence, she was still strong, having the courage to say it out. Li Yangzi knew that he had done something right today. Although Yingxiu's appearance made him feel a little unhappy, especially Lily crying for others made him feel upset, but now he could hear her saying such words was much more precious than coaxing her into saying the word like when she entered the mission. Li Yangzi endured the pleasure in her heart and nodded, of course. No one could snatch the lily away from him. Of course, he was not Yingxiu and could not tolerate someone snatching the lily away. To Li Yangzi, the silly idea that if you like someone is to silently watch her happiness, it was just a fantasy. If there really was someone like Lu Cheng in the plot, he would have died inexplicably before he could recover from his injuries. If the roots were removed, there would be no chance of rebirth. He sneered in his heart and used thousands of cruel methods to kill the imaginary enemies one by one. Li Yangzi showed a rare tenderness on the surface. He usually didn't even speak much, but at such a critical moment, it made Lily feel very sad. It was useful. It wasn't until she returned to the mission body again that Lily had almost melted away all the sadness that Yingxiu had brought her, that she suddenly remembered that she once again confessed to Li Yangzi, but he didn't even say a word about liking her. Didn't say it out loud. Forget it, I'll ask him again next time I return to the starry sky. Lily gritted her teeth, and it took a long time before she could bear the depression in her heart. During the time she entered the starry sky, Long Beihi's body had already flown halfway across the snow-covered forest. As expected, this body returned to its destination. After Lily returned to her body, she hesitated and transformed into a human form from mid-air and fell down. Although she had had the experience of becoming a dragon before, the plot that time was different from this time. Lily still, it was the first time she entered this kind of magic world. Although she inherited the memory of Long Beihi, she was not familiar with dragon language magic. She decided to practice it in this forest for a while, and when she returned to the clan, even if it was when fighting against the demons in the Abyss territory, it is better than rushing around. The place where Lily landed was already deep in the forest. This forest is the most terrifying place in the entire Fenja continent. There are many powerful monsters and treants in it. The forest is filled with snow that never melts all year round, and is surrounded by dangers. You may still be able to feel the breath of humans on the outer edge of the forest, but in the deepest part of the forest, you can hardly see the breath of living creatures. There is a sky of ice and snow everywhere, and the snow thorns falling to the ground from the surrounding snow look like they are shining with cold light. It seems to be able to easily scratch the hard exterior of the monster, which looks very dangerous. You can't feel the breath of living creatures around here. In the deepest part of the forest, even the tree people are nowhere to be seen. There is only snow all around. Long Beihi is a giant dragon of the Golden Clan. Due to his strong body, he is facing. Although the cold wind blowing like a knife felt a little unbearable, it didn't really hurt her body. However, the more Lily walked in, the more difficult she felt. The climate formed here not only prevented the demons from entering the human world. In addition to the barrier, it is also a barrier that prevents dragons from entering the human world. Lily stopped here. She planned to stay in this deserted place for a few years to get familiar with the skills of the original owner. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 479. For several years, Lily lived alone in this forest. It was very difficult at first. In addition to having to cope with the harsh climate from the forest, sometimes she was not able to control the magic power as freely as the original owner. A large amount of magic power elements flow into the body with the star body training technique. Even the strength of the dragon clan's body sometimes makes Lily suffer. Fortunately, with the passage of time, the body clan training technique transforms the nearly perfect dragon clan body into a physical one. When the spiritual energy of heaven and earth became closer and closer, an inheritance seal that had been blocking the golden dragon clan was suddenly released. A large amount of dragon language magic poured into Lily's mind. This method of inheritance was very wonderful. Only then did Lily realize that not only human magicians are divided into many levels, but also for dragons. It's just that it's too difficult for the dragon clan to advance, and no dragon clan has ever broken through this obstacle in thousands of years. Long Bei was born in the Golden Dragon clan, which has an innate bloodline advantage among the dragon clan, so he was born with strength. He is very strong. If nothing unexpected happens and he continues to practice naturally, he might be able to advance from a golden dragon to a sacred golden dragon in a few thousand years. However, Lily's sudden arrival and the fact that she has practiced the stars after practicing physical skills and combining it with the dragon clan's natural advantages in this world, Long Bei's body advanced in advance. The power of these dragon language magics was much more powerful than the magic of the previous Long Bei society. Lily stayed here for another half a year. She was not ready to leave until she had received all the inheritance after the seal was lifted this time. The wind blade in the forest that could have hurt her was easily bounced away by the scales on her body when it hit her. Dragon Island was in front, and there was an ecstatic feeling in Long Bei's body. Come. In the plot, Long Bei could not return to his hometown even after his death. He always yearned for the human world when he was young, and has been traveling in Fenja continent as an adult. Before Long Bei died, he regretted that he did not return to his roots, so that burying his bones in a foreign land was one of the things he regretted most in his life. Now he is back in his hometown. Lily suppressed the feeling of wanting to moan and turned into a human form and fell to the ground. After feeling the aura here, several giant dragons of different colors rushed over from the other end of the valley. After landing, they turned into several young people with hair and clothes of different colors. One of them had a long, fiery red head. When the young man with the hair saw Lily, his eyes suddenly lit up. "Ah-hee! You are back. There has been no news from you in the past few years. My brother also went out to look for you more than a year ago, but he seems to I haven't met you, and I haven't come back yet." The red-haired young man came over happily. Lily reached out and patted him, and the group of people laughed. This talking fire dragon is named Arrow. The dragon clan is powerful, both in terms of physical strength and magical talent. He is born to be loved by the Creator, and his life is extremely long. However, the dragon clan has a fatal flaw, that is, heirs are rare. Many dragon clan may have difficulty having children in their lifetime, but Alugo's parents were born at the same time. 2 eggs were laid, something that had never happened before in the dragon clan's nearly 10,000 years of history. Alugo's brother is a red-haired young man named Al. The 2 brothers grew up with Long Bei. The friendship is very deep. At this time, Lily heard that Al was out looking for her. She had actually been staying in the most dangerous place in the Snow Ridge Forest for the past few years. It is estimated that Al was still looking for her in the human world outside at this time, but Al was not there at all in the plot. Went out to look for her. Just as Lily was about to speak, Alugo himself laughed again. "I guess brother, like you, he, likes the human world, so he hasn't come back yet. I don't know if the human world is really that fun. When those ugly things are gone, all the demons in the world are sealed, and then I will also go to play with humans." As soon as Aluo finished speaking, a group of dragon youths burst into laughter. "But it's just the right time to come back now, ahi. The clan leader is planning to look for the clan members to look for you. The demon clan in the abyss seems to be a little crazy recently. The clan leader is trying to call you back to strengthen the seal." Another one. The young man whose hair and clothes were obviously that of a water-type dragon came forward and patted Lily on the shoulder. When he talked about the situation in the abyss territory, the faces of several dragons became gloomy. It was also at this time in the plot that something strange happened in the abyss territory. At that time, Long Bei was teaching etiquette to Lin Xiao. When he received the message from the clan, he rushed back to the dragon clan. Finally, when he strengthened the seal and returned to Lin Xiao, it happened that Lin Xiao was attacked by the devil. The air eroded and it was time to fall into coma. In the past few years, Lily only knew a rough idea of the time because she had been staying in the forest to familiarize herself with dragon language magic and receive inheritance. When she heard the riots in the abyss territory, she knew that the abyss lord should have escaped from the abyss territory. In her heart he couldn't help but feel some murderous intent towards this abyss lord. In the plot, the abyss lord not only hid behind his back to absorb Long Bei's golden dragon origin power, but in the end he robbed Lin Jiao and sent people to hunt down Long Bei. Although it was Lin Jiao who really deceived Long Bei's feelings. It's not him, but he can be regarded as Long Bei's enemy. What's more, at this time, Lily knows that this is the weakest period of this lord whose real strength is close to that of the dragon god. He has been sealed for many years. If Long Bei's origin was not later revealed, he used his strength to absorb light to lift the seal, and relied on the ginseng wine given to him by Lin Jiao to heal his injuries and regain half of his strength in his heyday. At this time, the lord who escaped from the abyss territory was no longer the original opponent of Long Bei. Not to mention that Lily has already unlocked the seal of Long Bei's body and directly entered the first level. The demons move frequently, and the clan leader suspects that these bastards are covering something up. These young men explain the general situation to Lily, and Lily immediately became more sure of her guess. The dragon clan became lively because of Lily's return. A group of tribesmen spontaneously brought food and started to celebrate the return of their friends. In the cave of the dragon clan leader, Long Bei's father, the most powerful leader of the dragon clan, he told Lily about the recent changes in the abyss territory. The recent riots of this group of visitors from the dark land may be related to what they want to hide. Last time, a tribesman died under the abyss. Hey, the human world, you are most familiar with it. These insidious things cannot escape into the mainland. This is a task given to us by the dragon god. We must protect it even if we die. When the leader of the dragon clan said this, Lily felt his determination. Well, a somewhat sad feeling can't help but arise in my heart. If the dragon clan would rather die than protect the main road between humans and demons, then when a large number of demons later poured into Fenja continent, wouldn't it mean that this small group of dragons has actually been destroyed? And if the dragon clan is really slaughtered, and the reason for the slaughter is because the demon lord absorbed the original power of Long Bei's descendants through Lin Jiao and released the seal, restoring most of the strength of the year, Long Bei, Lily could understand the reluctance in her heart. In this way, although Long Bei's wish was only to protect the dragon clan and drive the abyss monsters back outside the human territory, in fact Lily could not escape from the head-on confrontation with the abyss lord, and also it was inevitable to meet Lin Jiao again. The leader of the dragon clan finished talking about the abyss territory. Seeing Lily's thoughtful expression, he sighed again. Aga, when you enter the human world this time, you can first look for Al's whereabouts. If you find traces of the demons, you can remove them with Al. If you finish this matter, you can return to the dragon clan as soon as possible. Now in the clan the situation is very critical and I need your help now. When Lily heard this, She naturally nodded. The relationship between dragons has always been very close, and they did not restrict each other's actions. It is precisely because of this that Long Bahi has been in and out of human society for nearly 20 years. No one from the dragon clan came to urge him to go home, but at this time the clan leader actually said that he should come back as soon as possible after finishing his work, which proved that the situation of the dragon clan was indeed very serious at this time. In the plot, Long Bahi was infatuated with Lin Jiao's love. Didn't care about the situation of the dragon clan at all, and vaguely remembered that the dragon king had told Long Bahi that the dragon clan was dangerous, but Long Bahi couldn't listen to these words at the time, and only wanted to return to the human world as soon as possible and save the dragon king. He threw the words behind his mind, and at the same time ignored what the dragon king had told him about demons overcoming the dragon guards. At this moment, Lily listened to the dragon king's earnest words, and instinctively felt a sense of shame in her body, not daring to raise your head before the dragon king. "My child, may the dragon god be with you, and may you come back soon from this trip," the clan leader sighed. The dragon king is the most powerful among the dragon clan, but many years of fighting against the demons at the bottom of the abyss have made him look exhausted. The dragon king just glanced at Lily after finishing his business, and someone outside responded. The demon clan at the bottom of the abyss once again rioted. The clan leader had no time to say anything to Lily and left in a hurry. The welcome ceremony prepared by the tribe for Lily that night was naturally unable to be held due to the attack of the demons, so Lily naturally followed. This night was very tragic. A group of dragon tribes on the huge dragon island transformed into their original shapes and headed to Fenja continent. The entrances and exits are tightly blocked. A group of demons are similar to humans, but full of dark power. Their strength is far beyond that of fragile humans. These demons have powerful bodies that are not inferior to dragons, and have innate magical powers. It has a corrosive effect. Once the spell hits the dragon, the originally powerful dragon's body will be seriously injured. The two sides fought evenly throughout the night. It was not until dawn that the dragon was brave enough to push the demon back into the abyss again. Bottom. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Juan ERWR. Chapter 480. After a night of fighting, even a powerful dragon can't help but show a bit of exhaustion after turning into a human form. Lily has just advanced, and her own strength has already reached the stage of the sacred golden dragon, so she felt he was not seriously injured, but from this battle, Lily could tell how powerful the demons were. Even though they had been sealed before, their strength was comparable to that of the powerful dragons. No wonder the demon lord wanted to break the seal. Ordinary the demons were already so powerful when they were sealed. What kind of power will they have once the seal is unlocked? Under the escort of her tribe, Lily left the dragon clan. This time she decided to return to the imperial capital to find the demon lord who had turned into a black cat and find a way to kill him before he could unlock the seal. Al, who did not return to the dragon clan, was brought back. From now on, she will stay in the dragon clan. As long as all the demons are sealed, her mission will be completed. Due to her improved strength, Lily easily passed through the Snow Ridge forest this time. She spotted the direction of the Lin family and flew directly there. When she returned to the imperial capital, it took her less than 2 months. Time. About 100 miles away from the imperial capital, Lily slowly transformed into a human form and fell down. At this moment, there were many caravans and mercenary teams entering the city from the direction of the capital. When Lily blended into the crowd, there was no trace of her at all. People noticed where she came in before. A group of people dressed like mercenaries were walking in front carrying long swords and axes. Several people were talking and laughing about their mission today. One of them had a full head of brown red hair. She has curly hair and is wearing a tight-fitting upper body. The girl whose lower body was wearing an ultra-short pleated skirt accidentally looked back at Lily, and suddenly her face turned slightly red. This time after coming out of Dragon Island, Lily did not disguise herself like Long Bahi did in the past. She became the image of Long Bahi after he transformed into a human form. Unlike the tall and thin old man Long Bahi disguised before, now she is in the girl's eyes. Lily has golden wavy hair, and a very handsome face with a charm that is irresistible to the girl. Lily is now wearing a white robe with gold trim, and she looks very beautiful. He looked like a troubadour, but it made the girl's eyes light up. He paused as he stepped forward, then looked at Lily and smiled shyly. Is this your first time to come to the capital of the Kaizen Empire, sir? I have never seen you here before, sir. My name is Maya, and I am the capital of the empire. If you are a mercenary registered here, if you are not familiar with the imperial capital for the first time, I can accompany you around the imperial capital. The folk customs of the elegant mainland are open and open. It is not unusual for a girl to strike up a conversation with the person she likes. Even if a woman is strong and has status, it is considered normal in the eyes of the world to have several male favorites. However, Lily is pretending to be a man under the appearance of a man at the moment. A woman's heart, when she was looked at by the girl's bright eyes, the hairs on Lily's back almost stood up, and she had a cold face. Pretending to be unapproachable, he shook his head. No need. Lily's cold look not only did not scare the girl away. On the contrary, there was a look of interest in his eyes. What's your name, sir? Let's make more friends in the future, and we can have more paths in the imperial capital. Although our mercenary group has just registered, but there is a magic apprentice in our group. If you need his help, sir, he can help. Jimmy, come here quickly. The girl said as she spoke. While hurriedly waving to a companion waiting aside, the man named Jimmy was a boy of about 17 years old. He has a baby face and is wearing a black magic apprentice robe. After being called by the girl, he tried his best to look indifferent. He might want to follow Lily's serious look, but his thin body moved closer to Lily. As soon as he stood, most of his forced aura was gone. He was about a head and a half lower than Lily, and now he was not even up to Lily's shoulders. There were two blushes on the young man's face. He wrinkled his nose and snorted. Maya, let's go. We just completed the Countess's commission. We need to return to the city as soon as possible. As soon as the young man finished speaking, a very strong young man holding two axes next to him also glanced at Lily with a wary expression, with a look of disdain on his face. Jimmy is right, Maya, why should we follow what can such a pretty boy say? Who does he think he is? As the young man spoke, he raised the two axes originally on his shoulders, waved them in front of Lily, and said provocatively, poor little boy, can you lift such a heavy axe? If not, you are not a man. Lily gave the young man a dumbfounded look. The young man was wearing a coat made of animal skin, revealing a strong chest with well-defined muscles. He must have liked this girl named Maya very much. Now he spoke as soon as he provoked Lily. The surrounding mercenaries started to laugh. Some even started to place bets on Lily to lose. At first glance, he looks like a weak pretty boy. Olean teaches him a lesson. I bet you 10 gold coins to win. The young man originally just wanted to laugh at Lily, but he didn't expect that the people around him would start making bets between him and Lily. From the looks of it, if the two were fighting, the young man named Olean felt that he will definitely win, so a look of excitement suddenly appeared on his face. 10 gold coins is not a small amount for a newly established mercenary group. The shy magic apprentice next to him also showed greed. Eli, Olean, it's just a small competition, there should be no problem, right? As soon as the young man spoke, the young man couldn't help but nodded. Boy, do you dare to respond? You coward! Lily's brows suddenly wrinkled, with an impatient look on her face, she stared at the young man coldly, and released a trace of the pressure of the golden dragon. The group of people who were laughing at Lily just now instinctively felt that their legs were numb, and many people's faces looked a little ugly. Olean felt that the 2 axes in his hands were suddenly as heavy as 1,000 pounds, and he couldn't hold them any more, and they fell to the ground. 2 bang-bang sounds were heard, and everyone just then, as if she had come back to her senses, the girl who had come to talk to Lily before gave Olean a hateful look. What are you doing, Olean? Maya, this pretty boy doesn't even dare to fight, why are you so kind to him? The young man felt inexplicably frightened just now. Now Lily withdrew the pressure. He scratched his head and dismissed the inexplicable feeling before. The feeling was thrown to the back of his mind, and he looked at the girl and said with some reluctance, he is still ignoring you. Why is he pretending to be incompetent? At first glance, he is just a cowardly and incompetent troubadour. His words aroused the angry looks of many cowardly and incompetent bards in the team entering the city, but when they saw Orion's strong figure, no poet dared to condemn the young man's words. The girl named Maya snorted coldly, with an unhappy look on her face. What's the matter with me being friendly to him? When you talk about Miss Lin Xiao, don't you also have a look of yearning on your face? How can he compare with Miss Lin Xiao? As soon as the girl mentioned Lin Xiao, the young man who had just looked aggrieved suddenly became a little excited. He didn't even pick up the axe that fell to the ground, but said loudly, Miss Lin Xiao is the pride of the empire. She is elegant, noble, and beautiful, and her strength is tyrannical. Now she has mastered magic and martial arts, her fighting spirit has reached the standard of a silver-level swordsman, and her magic has reached the level of a great magician. Such a genius is rare in the entire Fenja continent. Miss Lin Xiao is even so charming. Her charm attracts even dragons that the world has never seen before. I fall in love with her at first sight and am willing to become her slave. What's wrong with admiring Miss Lin Xiao? Why should such a pretty boy be compared to Miss Lin Xiao? The young man was frothing at the mouth and looked very excited. When the people around him heard Lin Xiao's name, their faces showed yearning and obsession. Even the magical boy who just tried his best to look indifferent nodded. Miss Lin Xiao is the pride of the empire. She invented the lottery. She even invented many things. She has helped many people in need. She is a true angel and the incarnation of the goddess of light. Almighty Creator, I hope Miss Lin Xiao's eyes can fall on me. Even if I die immediately, I am willing. Some people even started to clasp their hands and mutter something. People around, not surprisingly, they were not surprised by this situation. On the contrary, everyone seemed accustomed to it and nodded along with it. Lily was really surprised at this moment. She didn't expect that she would hear a name that she had not seen for a long time before she entered the city. Moreover, at this time, Lin Xiao was still as famous as in the plot, and she also had magical powers. Dual cultivation, and everything has reached the intermediate or upper level. Considering Lin Xiao's age, even if she is a truly peerless genius, it is impossible for her to achieve such an achievement unless she gets half of Long Beihe like in the plot. Of talent and magic. But even if Lin Xiao met the demons, it should have just happened now, and even if she had some adventures and could reach the level of a great magician now, even if she just eats ginseng wine every day, it will take at least a year or two. When Lily heard that the Dragon Clan was fascinated by Lin Xiao and was willing to become her slave, a bad premonition came to her heart. She frowned and subconsciously remembered what Aloto said when she returned to the Dragon Clan. His brother Al entered the human society more than a year ago to find his own words. She pursed her lips, her face was very ugly at this time, and anger surged in her body. She glanced at the young man and asked, Lin Xiao? But that second lady in Earl Lin's residence. Her sister Lin Qian was Lin Jiao, who was a disciple of the great wizard in the academy. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendation, monthly tickets. Your support is my biggest motivation. Cannon Fodder Strategy. Author, Wan Erwr. Chapter 481. I didn't expect you to know Miss Lin Jiao's name. When the young man heard Lily say Lin Jiao's name, he looked at Lily with some contempt, but now you are wrong. The Lin family is no longer the Earl's mansion, because Miss Lin Jiao conquered the dragon and became the only dragon knight in the history of our Kaizen Empire. Miss Lin Jiao was summoned by His Majesty the Emperor, and the Lin family was named a duke, and even the Crown Prince is also pursuing Miss Lin Jiao now, but Miss Lin Jiao is not moved by power at all. Such a great Miss Lin Jiao is really a model for all the famous ladies in the Kaizen Empire. The young man said this with excitement, then he looked at Lily with a sneer. Poor little one, look at your country-like appearance. Do you know what a giant dragon is? That's a real giant dragon, not comparable to those rubbish sub-dragons, Miss Lin Jiao, but for the warrior who truly subdued the dragon. You look like a country bumpkin, and I'm afraid you'll tremble with fear even when you hear the dragon. Lily's face was livid now. She clenched her fists tightly, and could hardly control the anger rising from her body. She ignored the young man who looked enthusiastic when talking about Lin Xiao, and instead turned to look at the girl named Maya. Said, I wonder what this giant dragon looks like. She had been indifferent to the girl just now. Now Len might as well take the initiative to talk to the girl. Anger flashed in the eyes of the young man named Olian next to him. Before the girl could speak, he clenched his fist and swept towards Lily with a big mouth. Drink, little bug, get out of here. At this moment, Lily was worried about whether her thoughts would come true, so the young man swept his fist over. Her face suddenly darkened, and without thinking, she stretched out her hand and grabbed the young man's fist. The people around her were laughing and about to applaud. Olian, kill him. Before everyone could finish their words, Lily suddenly gathered her fingers together. A small click sound was heard, and a scream came from Olian's mouth. The crowd who had been laughing and ready to laugh at Lily, suddenly they were all stunned. Lily easily pulled the young man in front of her. He raised his left leg and kicked the young man in the stomach hard. I only give you a warning for the time being. The young man was kicked, and he flew up uncontrollably and shot backwards like an arrow. He knocked down several strong mercenaries along the way, and none of those at the bottom behind him. The exception was that she flew backwards. Lily's kick was not only able to kick away the young man who looked much stronger than her, but also brought several people in the middle but could not stabilize the young man. Mercenaries usually look at people's faces. At this moment, they didn't know that Olian might have offended someone he couldn't afford to offend. The people who were applauding him just now suddenly stopped. Many people even thought about it. After comparing the strength between himself and Olian, he lowered his head subconsciously. The road outside the city gate suddenly became very quiet. The people who had just clapped their hands and applauded now wished that Lily would not set her eyes on them. Only the girl from before looked at Lily in awe. After gritting his teeth and nodding hurriedly at Lily, he bent down and saluted, and then quietly went to the place where Olian fell to help him up. What does it look like to be a dragon who is willing to become Lin Jiao's slave? Lily didn't even look at Olian, who was kicked away by her. She asked the question she just asked again. This time no one dared to ignore her words. But everyone around them stayed away. Only the baby-faced boy in the magic apprentice robe looked around nervously. After seeing no one around, he swallowed his saliva, gritted his teeth and whispered, Your Excellency, we were not lucky enough to see Miss Lin Jiao's dragon with our own eyes. But it is said to be a fiery red dragon. I once asked. The young man carefully glanced at Lily's somewhat gloomy face. When he talked about the red dragon, he saw the light in Lily's eyes dimming suddenly. He couldn't help being frightened, and naturally he couldn't say anything else. What a Lin Xiao! Lily sneered twice. She calculated her own strength at this time. Although she had broken through to the stage of the sacred dragon, she didn't know how much the seal of the Abyss Lord had been lifted. If this lord hadn't, although she was very strong when the seal was lifted, after the seal was lifted, she was no worse than the lord before the seal was lifted. She was even stronger in comparison. But if Lin Jiao really signed a contract with a giant dragon, and the Abyss Lord used the power of the dragon to lift the seal, so Lily couldn't guarantee whether she could kill him 100%. It is impossible for the Dragon Clan to send reinforcements at this time. The Demon Clan in the Abyss territory has been very rampant recently. It is already very difficult for the existing Dragon Clan to deal with these Demon Clan. There is no way to spare the manpower, and everything can only be done by themselves. Tell me more about Lin Jiao. Lily could only ask more about Lin Jiao at the moment. The group of people were a little wary of Lily's strength at first, but when she asked about Lin Jiao, many people showed yearning on their faces. With such a look on her face, someone boldly praised her. Miss Lin Jiao is simply a gift from the goddess of light. She has the most beautiful heart and a kind heart. Once someone started talking, there were a lot of compliments. From a lot of nonsense praising Lin Jiao, Lily heard that Lin Jiao owned a black pet cat next to her, and this pet cat was very popular news, such as Lin Jiao opening a lottery shop, a fashion store, a cake shop, etc., and now she has become a fashion trend in the entire Fenja continent, are automatically filtered out. A group of people entered the city quickly as they spoke, and the other mercenaries dispersed on their own. The girl named Maya was a little afraid but stared at Lily with admiration. Mister, if you have nowhere to go, you can temporarily join our mercenary team. Although our mercenary team is not strong now, it will grow up one day. People in Fenja continent admire the strong, and this is precisely because of Lin Jiao. The reason why she is famous now is that Lily rejected the girl's plea. After asking her where Lin Jiao was now, she walked directly in the direction of the Lin family. The current Lin family is no longer comparable to the small Earl's palace in the imperial capital. The emperor had the Lin family rebuilt the duke's palace in the most prosperous place in the empire. In front of the door was a white jade statue of Lin Jiao as a dragon knight. It has not yet been completely completed. Several craftsmen are painting the statue. She is wearing a majestic red leather armor, with a similarly red dragon coiled under her feet. The statue is made lifelike. This scene is in the plot. The scene of Long Beihe crawling at Lin Jiao's feet for her to ride has also appeared in the novel. It was also placed in front of the Duke's palace as one of the proofs that Lin Jiao subdued the dragon, but Long Beihe was not able to do so. She was so embarrassed and became the laughing stock of the entire dragon clan. When Lily saw the statue, an unknown fire surged up in her heart. She stretched out her hand without thinking, and the surrounding light elements quickly began to move towards it. She gathered her palms together, gathered them into a ball, and then Lily threw the ball of light out. There was a loud bang, and the painting workers were startled. They threw the paint trays in their hands in a hurry and scattered in all directions. Two of them were running slowly and screamed. None of them came out, and the blood mist in the sky was sprinkled all over the statue. Lin Jiao's originally perfect statue was suddenly exploded, and the jade on the upper body to the head turned into powder. Lily then clapped her hands and sneered. A kick hit the broken statue. Such a scene startled the people around them. The small mercenary group that had followed Lily subconsciously exclaimed when they saw such a scene. The noise here attracted the attention of the imperial guards. Even people in the Duke's palace were alerted. A large group of soldiers wearing armor and holding shields quickly ran out. A group of guards who came from the imperial capital saw Lily. Then he subconsciously pointed at her and started drinking. Who dares to act wild in front of the Duke's palace? When the captain of the guard was speaking, the door of the Duke's palace was opened, and a group of neatly dressed soldiers ran out. Lily actually regretted her impulse when she couldn't control herself and destroyed the statue, but after the moment she saw the statue, she couldn't control the resentment in her body at all. She just overreacted instinctively. Now that she was in trouble, it was too late for her to run away. Not far away, some magic instructors from the Imperial Academy have already rushed over. Because the Duke's palace is located in the center of the imperial capital, these people arrived very quickly. Now they formed a circle outside, holding magic wands in their hands, with wary expressions on their faces. Staring at Lily. Let Lin Jiao come out. An old friend I haven't seen for many years is here to visit. Lily took a deep breath. After saying this, the people in the Duke's mansion couldn't help but sneered. This is the first time I heard that someone came to visit. They damaged the statue of the master to worship. There are so many people who want to see our second lady all day long. How can a dirty bug like you deserve to see the second lady? Go to hell. As soon as this man finished speaking, the crowd in the Duke's mansion, the hired magicians, began to recite spells collectively, and a group of soldiers blocked huge shields in front of the magicians to provide the magicians with time to chant spells. When everyone around was pointing at Lily, Lily impatiently clasped her hands together, and several ice blades suddenly appeared in her hands. Dragons have a natural advantage in magic, especially when it comes to Lily's level, except for some large ones. Apart from the forbidden spells, there was no need to recite complicated spells at all. As soon as several ice blades were made, she looked in the direction of the magicians and threw them. To be continued. If you like this work, you are welcome to vote for recommendations and monthly votes. Your support is my biggest motivation.